The story begins inside Kriana Fantasy, a wildly popular dating action RPG set around the Kriana Royal Academy. Players can fight monsters, pursue romance, or choose from countless routes and endings, yet no matter how freely the player acts, one troublesome character always appears to obstruct the protagonist, Alba Eretia. Alba Eretia is the arrogant and violent son of a duke, infamous for looking down on everyone around him. He is strong, privileged, short-tempered, and destined to become an enemy of the protagonist on virtually every route. In the original game, he is the kind of villain players are expected to hate. But the Alba standing here now is nothing like the notorious Academy villain from the game. 3 years before Kriana Fantasy's main story is supposed to begin, he is living quietly in a small cottage deep in the mountains. For him, another peaceful morning has arrived. As Alba works outside his mountain home, he reflects on the strange truth behind his life. It has already been 3 years since he realized that he had reincarnated as Alba Eretia, the doomed villain from Kriana Fantasy. That realization completely changed the way he chose to live. Back when he first awakened in Duke Eretia's mansion, Alba could not recognize the room, the scenery, or even the face staring back at him from the mirror. Then fragments of his previous life returned, and he finally remembered the game this world resembled. His memories revealed exactly who Alba was supposed to be. In Kriana Fantasy, he repeatedly interferes with the protagonist, sometimes competing for a heroine, and sometimes becoming an outright rival. Every version of Alba, however, shares one terrifying trait. He eventually becomes a major obstacle. Depending on the route, Alba can be corrupted by evil, destroy the academy, seize towns and treasures, or oppose the hero in some other disastrous way. The details change from route to route, but his role remains the same. He becomes a villain who must eventually be stopped. Once those memories returned, the reincarnated Alba reached a horrifying conclusion. He had not simply entered the world of Kriana Fantasy. He had been reborn as the character whose future was packed with destruction flags. His confused mind could only ask one thing: why did it have to be him? The worst part is that Alba's death is practically guaranteed. No matter which route the player follows, he is eventually defeated or killed after standing against the protagonist. In other words, avoiding a single bad ending would not be enough. Alba's very existence is tied to death flags. Alba refuses to quietly accept that fate. Instead of waiting inside the Duke's mansion for the game's story to begin and eventually kill him, he decides that survival has to come first. If destiny insists that Alba must die, then he will do everything possible to run from that destiny. So Alba takes valuables from his room, slips out of the Eretia estate, and abandons his noble life entirely. While the household panics over the missing young master, Alba heads far away from the people and places connected to the game. His new goal is simple: survive, even if it means disappearing from society. 3 years later, that escape has worked surprisingly well. Alba dies and cuts his hair, buys a modest cottage in the mountains, and lives a quiet life far removed from his former luxury. It may be inconvenient compared with his old life, but there is one thing that matters much more to him. He is still alive. Alba's peaceful routine is interrupted by a cheerful girl arriving at his home. Her name is Celia Margaret, and she greets him warmly even after showing up late. Although Alba jokes with her, he knows Celia is anything but an ordinary visitor. Celia excitedly hands Alba a letter, and he jokingly asks if it is about some debt before telling her to eat it. She immediately protests that she is not a goat. Their easy banter shows how close they have become, even though Alba knows getting close to her is dangerous for him. Alba quickly apologizes after teasing Celia and pats her head, while she pouts at him before softening again. Despite how natural their relationship now feels, Alba keeps reminding himself that he should never have become involved with this girl in the first place. The reason is simple. Celia is directly connected to Alba's possible death flags. Standing beside her may feel peaceful now, but Alba knows that she belongs to the very game scenario he fled into the mountains to avoid, and their connection began only half a year earlier. Celia is the saintess, who serves the goddess of destiny, a famous and exceptionally rare figure, blessed with healing abilities and the power to foresee disasters. Someone, with her importance, should never have crossed paths with a runaway villain hiding in the mountains. Yet, that is exactly what happened 6 months ago. At the time, Alba was enjoying the simple mountain life he had built for himself. He had grown familiar with farming, and was relieved that rumors back home treated the missing Alba almost like a dead man. With even the Oreshia family apparently accepting those rumors, he believed his quiet life might finally be safe. Alba assumes that his family never challenged the rumors, because the original Alba had been disliked even by those closest to him. While working outside his cottage, he feels that his plan to disappear may have succeeded. Then a distant scream reaches him from somewhere in the mountains. Following the scream, Alba discovers Celia surrounded by armed assassins. Her guards have already been cut down, and the attackers close in while telling the terrified saintess that escape is impossible. The peaceful mountain routine Alba fought so hard to protect is suddenly dragged straight into danger. Celia can only watch in horror as the assassins advance. She tries to resist, but the situation is hopeless, and another strike comes toward her before she can escape. Just as she believes there is no way out, someone intervenes between her and the attackers. A violent burst of power explodes through the forest. Alba's sudden attack sends the assassins reeling, leaving Celia stunned as she tries to understand what just happened. He had wanted nothing to do with the game's main cast, yet instinct has already pulled him into saving one of its heroines. Alba steps forward after stopping the attack and calmly confronts the men who made Celia cry. He may desperately want to avoid death flags, but he cannot simply ignore someone being abused in front of him. That small decision is enough to place him directly between the saintess and her enemies. Only after seeing Celia clearly does Alba recognize her from Kriana Fantasy. She is one of the heroines, and one of the people directly linked to his possible downfall. The realization hits him hard because avoiding people like Celia was the entire reason he isolated himself in the mountains. Alba can almost feel the goddess of destiny laughing at his attempt to escape the game's plot. The assassins leap at him, while Celia desperately tells him to run away. Instead of fleeing, Alba braces himself to fight the very danger he had spent years trying to avoid. The assassins rush Alba from several directions, but their numbers do not matter. He counters them with overwhelming speed and power, breaking through their attack before they can touch him. Now that he has made contact with Celia, Alba knows the situation cannot simply be undone. Living alone in the mountains was never just about hiding. Alba also spent those years learning how the powers of this world worked, becoming strong enough to defeat the assassins in a single overwhelming exchange. Even though killing people still weighs on him, Alba has already decided that he will resist whatever death fate sends his way with everything he has. With the attackers defeated, Alba turns back to Celia and asks whether she is all right. She is physically safe, but the bodies of her fallen companions remain around them. Alba apologizes because, despite arriving in time for her, he could not save the people who had been protecting her. That apology causes Celia's emotions to finally collapse. She cries that she cannot take this life anymore, and explains that traveling across the land as the saintess constantly makes her a target. For years, she has swallowed those feelings. But the deaths around her become the final straw that breaks through everything she had been suppressing. Celia explains that the saintess holds enormous authority within the goddess church, second only to the Pope. Because of that position and her miraculous power, people repeatedly try to exploit, kidnap, or eliminate her. Worse, innocent guards keep sacrificing themselves to protect her, leaving Celia trapped in a life she never chose. Through tears, Celia finally says what she truly wants: an ordinary life. She does not want to live in fear, watch others die for her, or keep fulfilling duties that make her miserable. To Alba, these are not scripted lines from a game character. This is a real girl crying in front of him. Seeing Celia broken down on the ground, Alba awkwardly pats her head and waits for her to calm herself. He had come here to escape the game's heroines, but now that he has witnessed Celia's pain with his own eyes, simply abandoning her becomes much harder than he expected. Before he can reconsider, Alba blurts out an unexpected invitation. Celia can come live at his house. She stares at him in disbelief, clearly unsure whether she heard him correctly. The offer escapes his mouth faster than his survival instincts can stop it. Alba admits that he does not fully understand Celia's circumstances, but he can see that she has already worked herself to the breaking point. He tells her that resting until she can smile again matters more than endlessly forcing herself to continue. Her tears remind him that Celia is a human being, not merely a character from a game. Alba tells Celia that if her destiny exists only to make her cry, she has every right to run from it. If she has nowhere else to go, she can run away with him. After all, Alba himself abandoned the future that had been prepared for him, so he understands exactly what it means to rebel against fate. Celia quietly reaches for Alba's offered hand and asks him to take her with him. Alba knows accepting her request means staying close to someone tied to his death flags. Even so, after seeing how desperately she wants another life, he cannot bring himself to refuse. Alba chooses compassion over caution. He admits to himself that he would rather see Celia smiling than crying and tells her she can simply call him Alba. Celia introduces herself properly as Celia Margaret, and from that moment their unlikely life together truly begins. Half a year passes. Living with Alba allows Celia to recover the cheerful smile that had been buried beneath her responsibilities as saintess. Then a reply finally arrives from the letter she sent to her father, the Pope, forcing the two of them to confront what comes next. After reading the response, Celia turns to Alba and nervously asks whether he will continue staying with her. Instead of discussing titles or duties, she simply wants reassurance that the person who gave her a place to escape will not disappear. Her request makes their bond impossible for Alba to dismiss as a temporary arrangement. Alba assures Celia that he will stay. Since he was the one who saved her and gave her shelter, he jokingly declares that he is responsible for her until the end. Celia immediately hugs him in delight, while Alba realizes that taking responsibility for her may now require going somewhere he desperately wanted to avoid. The letter points them toward the one place Alba fears most. Kriana Academy, the main stage of Kriana fantasy. To Celia, it represents the chance for a normal school life. To Alba, the academy is practically a nest overflowing with heroines, rival characters, and execution-class death flags. Alba remembers promising himself that he would never return to the game's central setting. Celia, however, beams at the idea of attending school. With him says that having Alba beside her would make it the best school life imaginable. Her excitement leaves him facing the exact future he spent 3 years avoiding. Unable to hold back any longer, Alba screams that he does not want to go. His peaceful mountain escape has somehow led directly back to Kriana Academy. No matter how desperately he resists, Celia's arrival has already begun dragging the hidden villain back onto the game's main stage. Kriana Academy is directly managed by the kingdom and educates promising nobles, gifted commoners, and non-humans alike. It is also the main setting of Kriana fantasy, and in every version of that story, the unruly duke's son Alba Aretia appears as the ultimate villain who stands in the protagonist's way and eventually dies. Knowing that future, Alba had spent years avoiding every major character and setting connected to the game. He abandoned the nobility, hid in the mountains, and lived as quietly as possible. Yet despite all of those precautions, he now finds himself traveling straight toward the academy as the very villain he was trying not to become. A carriage carries Alba and Celia into the capital, and Celia excitedly points out the enormous Kriana Academy in the distance. Alba forces a weak response while staring at the place he never wanted to see again. His plan to remain hidden has officially failed. He has come to the heart of the game's story. Celia notices how pale Alba looks and worries that the carriage ride made him sick. She even offers her lap as a pillow, but Alba hurriedly declines. What she does not know is that his real amnesia comes from recognizing the academy and remembering every death flag connected to it. Alba keeps his knowledge of Kriana fantasy secret from Celia. He cannot tell her that she is one of the game's heroines, or that he believes the academy may lead him to his death. As the mountains disappear behind them, he wonders how he ever allowed himself to come this far with her. The answer lies in the letter Celia received from her father. As founder of the goddess church, the Pope possesses influence comparable to the king himself, so Alba initially expected punishment for secretly sheltering his daughter. Instead, the message turned out to contain gratitude rather than anger. Rather than threatening Alba, the Pope's letter is filled with sincere apologies and thanks. He recognizes that Alba protected Celia during a dangerous period and gave her something the church had failed to provide. That unexpected gratitude leaves Alba far less prepared to reject the request that follows. In the letter, Celia's father explains the burden placed on her since birth. Because she was blessed with miraculous powers and chosen as saintess, Everyone assumed her life should belong to the goddess church. From the moment she was born, Celia's future had effectively been decided for her. As soon as Celia was old enough, she began traveling among believers and carrying out pilgrimages, no matter how harsh or dangerous the journey became. She used her miraculous gift to help people everywhere, faithfully acting as the saintess the church expected her to be. Celia never complained, not even once. Her father once believed her constant smile meant she willingly accepted her duty and even felt grateful for it. Only after she ran away did he realize how badly he had misunderstood his own daughter. That smile had been hiding pain she never allowed herself to show. The Pope finally understands that Celia had been crying on the inside while wishing for an ordinary life. He tells Alba that saving her from the assassins was not the only thing that mattered. Alba also saved her spirit by giving her a place where she could live for herself. For that, Celia's father offers his deepest gratitude. As a father, the Pope now wants to support Celia's wish for the normal life she was denied. He even asks Alba to forgive an old man for realizing the truth so late. Celia is touched by the letter, and Alba admits that her father sounds far more caring than he expected. Then comes the request Alba does not want to hear. The Pope asks him to attend Kriana Academy alongside Celia. The school gathers talented people from across the kingdom and offers the best education available. He believes it is the ideal place for Celia to finally experience an ordinary student life. The Pope also wants Alba there for protection. Anyone capable of defeating Celia's assassins single-handedly is exactly the kind of guardian he trusts beside his daughter. More importantly, he knows Celia herself wants to remain with Alba, making the request increasingly difficult for Alba to refuse. Celia sweetly says that she would not mind attending the academy alone, but Alba can instantly see through her expression. Her innocent smile hides exactly how much she wants him to come with her. He realizes that even the Pope has been completely fooled by that deceptively gentle face. Alba tries to frighten Celia away from the idea. He warns that the academy is full of troublesome nobles, and men eager to take advantage of a cute girl like her. Celia, however, has already survived far more dangerous pilgrimages, so his warnings do little to weaken her excitement. He keeps listing reasons the academy will be unpleasant: exhausting studies, unfamiliar surroundings, and losing free time to subjects she may not care about. Celia counters every objection with enthusiasm. She looks forward to studying things beyond scripture, making friends, and finally going somewhere new simply because she wants to. Seeing that excitement, Alba gives in. He agrees to attend Kriana Academy with Celia, deciding that if fate insists on placing death flags in front of him, he will rebel against them with everything he has. He may be walking directly into the game, but he refuses to abandon the girl beside him. Alba's decision comes down to something surprisingly simple. Celia looks far better smiling than she ever did crying. If protecting that smile means entering the academy and facing the future he once ran from, then he will accept the risk rather than send her there alone. Alba sarcastically thanks the goddess of destiny for guiding him straight toward his death, while wondering whether that same goddess might even be responsible for his reincarnation. The Pope adds one final warning in his letter. Whatever happens at the academy, Alba had better never make his daughter cry. And so Alba and Celia arrive at Kriana Academy together. Celia is amazed by the enormous campus, while Alba can only stare at the place where so many of his remembered death flags are supposed to begin. His quiet mountain life is officially over, and the real challenge starts here. Standing before Kriana Academy in person is far more intimidating than Alba remembers from the game screen. The vast buildings, crowds, and sheer scale make the place feel painfully real. For the first time, the stage where his character is supposed to die is no longer just scenery from a game. Celia happily admires the statues decorating the academy, including figures of the goddess, the hero, and the holy beast said to protect maidens. Alba feels an uncomfortable sense that many of them connect to events from Kriana fantasy. The problem is that his memories of those events have become frustratingly vague. To reduce the chance of being recognized, Alba uses the false identity, Al, a holy knight apprentice arranged by Celia's father. Celia nearly calls him Alba before correcting herself. The Pope's influence even provides a believable background, allowing the supposedly dead Duke's son to enter the academy without immediately exposing himself. Alba is annoyed that he cannot remember every detail of the game, but one rule remains clear in his mind. Stay away from anyone connected to his death flags. That plan becomes difficult almost immediately once other students notice Celia and excitedly recognize the famous saintess. A crowd swarms around Celia, begging to shake her hand, become her friend, and speak with the superstar saintess they have only heard about. The attention quickly overwhelms her. Instead of the ordinary student life she wanted, Celia finds herself being treated like a sacred celebrity again. As the crowd presses closer, Celia remembers the simple wish that brought her here. She just wants a normal life. Alba sees how quickly that dream is being crushed and moves before the situation can spiral further out of control. Alba lifts Celia away from the crowd and sharply reminds everyone that she is not here as the saintess. She is here as an ordinary student of Kriana Academy, playing the role of her Holy Knight apprentice. He declares that he will protect her and asks everyone to stop thoughtlessly crowding around her. The stunned students immediately back away, impressed by the mysterious young man who carried the saintess off so easily. Celia thanks Alba, while the crowd assumes he must be the son of some powerful noble family. But another figure watches the pair from nearby, recognizing something that the others do not. A red-haired young woman stares after Alba with shock. Even with his changed hair and false name, something about him is unmistakably familiar to her. Before Alba can realize who has seen him, the woman quietly utters the name he is trying to hide. Alba. The next part of Alba's academy life begins as Celia eagerly pulls him toward the uniform pickup area. She is thrilled to start school properly, while Alba is still struggling with the fact that he has actually entered Kriana Academy. And somewhere nearby, a person from his old life has already recognized him. Alba thought he had mentally prepared himself, but standing inside the academy makes the danger feel much more immediate. Every corridor could contain someone tied to his future doom. He clenches his fist and reminds himself that this is where Alba Aricia is supposed to meet the fate he has spent years running from. Celia notices Alba's anxiety and gently takes his hand. She tells him not to be afraid because she is with him. Her reassurance is simple, but it is enough to steady Alba when his memories of the game's bad endings threaten to overwhelm him. Alba is embarrassed that Celia is the one calming him when he is supposed to be protecting her. He thanks her and finally relaxes, while Celia admits with a laugh that she is a little nervous too. For a moment, they face the unfamiliar academy simply as two students entering a new life together. As they walk through the academy, Celia admires the enormous stained glass image of the hero protecting the goddess and quietly prays that she will end up in the same class as Alba. Alba notes that her prayer is completely personal, despite Celia's reputation for praying selflessly for everyone else. At the uniform counter, an eccentric elderly staff member tells Alba and Celia that they have both been placed in the unicorn class. Celia celebrates because her prayer came true. Alba is relieved, although the old man's face triggers another vague memory of some event from the game that he cannot quite recall. Leaving the counter with their uniforms, Celia excitedly talks about finally wearing the academy outfit. Alba relaxes because nothing disastrous has happened yet. Then a voice suddenly calls him Alba. Celia quickly corrects herself to Al, but this time the name did not come from her. A woman confronts Alba directly, saying that his hair color may be different, but she knows who he is. Alba freezes as the disguise he trusted is pierced almost instantly. The red-haired swordswoman is certain that the Holy Knight apprentice standing beside Celia is really Alba Aricia. Looking at her fiery red hair, Alba's old memories click into place. The woman is Elena Persia, one of Kriana Fantasy's romanceable heroines, and Alba's childhood friend and former fiancé. That makes her far more dangerous to his survival plan than an ordinary acquaintance. Alba immediately identifies Elena as one of the key people connected to his death flags. She demands to know why he is standing beside the saintess. Celia tries to protect his cover by introducing him as her attendant and Holy Knight apprentice, but Elena clearly does not believe that explanation. Celia insists that the man beside her is Al, not Alba, even while accidentally admitting that Alba was the one who saved her. Elena quickly pieces together the truth. Alba ran away from home and spread rumors that he had died. Alba keeps pretending not to understand, but his clumsy denial convinces no one. Elena's patience snaps. She draws her sword and warns Alba that if he continues playing dumb, she will cut him down. Alba realizes from her expression that this is not an empty threat. The heroine standing in front of him is completely serious. The surrounding students recognize Elena as Lady Elena Persia of the prestigious Persia family and begin panicking over the confrontation. Elena orders Celia to stand back and asks one final time whether the man before her is Alba. With a crowd gathering, Alba's carefully constructed secret identity is already falling apart. Alba hesitates, remembering the promise he made to resist his fate with everything he has. He knows that admitting his identity could pull him deeper into the game's scenario. Rather than surrender to that fear, he prepares himself for whatever Elena is about to do. Still refusing to expose himself, Alba calmly answers with the only identity he is willing to give her. I'm Al. Elena accepts the answer with an ominous smile and tells him to engrave what comes next into his body. Elena attacks without hesitation, declaring that Alba will be punished for deceiving the Persia family. Her swordsmanship is frighteningly fast, exactly as Alba remembers her from the game. He realizes that Elena is not merely a noblewoman. She is one of the best swordswomen in Kriana fantasy. Her blade flashes toward him at close range. Alba reads the attack at the last instant and begins moving before Elena can complete the strike. For a moment, even Elena is startled by how naturally he responds to a sword technique that would overwhelm most students. Alba suddenly vanishes from Elena's line of attack. The spectators can barely follow his movement, and Elena herself is shocked by how quickly he escaped the path of her blade. Celia calls for her to calm down, but the duel has already revealed that Al is far from an ordinary attendant. Elena swings again, but this time Alba stops her sword directly. The impossible-looking defense leaves the crowd speechless. The secret is not brute strength alone. Alba is using magic power refined during the 3 years he spent preparing to survive his future death flags. Alba recalls how magic works in this world. Fire, water, wind, and other elemental affinities require a person to harmonize with the attribute that suits them. Because he remembered studying elemental weaknesses while playing Kriana fantasy, Alba spent his mountain years learning to sense that strange power beyond the ordinary 5 senses. He trained constantly, first sensing the element, then sharpening the connection, and finally learning to wield it freely. It took years of relentless practice before the sensation became natural. Alba's affinity is lightning, an element perfectly suited to the speed he now uses against Elena. Alba's training eventually reached an extreme level. He learned to transform his entire body into lightning itself. What began as an experiment became one of his greatest weapons. To Alba, this power is not about becoming a hero. It is simply another tool he created to resist the death waiting for the game's villain. Back in the present, Alba asks Elena to stop the nonsense and tries to apologize without admitting that he is really Alba. He understands that she has every reason to resent the man who disappeared without explanation. But Elena is nowhere near ready to let him walk away. Elena unleashes another furious slash, the force tearing across the ground in front of her. Alba reacts immediately, refusing to let either himself or Celia remain trapped in the confrontation. The Academy's first day has turned into exactly the kind of dangerous event he wanted to avoid. Before the confused crowd can understand what happened, Alba escapes with Celia. Students shout that the Saintess has disappeared, along with the mysterious attendant. Elena can only watch the empty space where they stood and mutter that the two of them managed to get away. One of the students nervously asks whether Elena is all right after the sudden chase. She quietly answers that she is fine and claims that she only got some dust in her eye. Her calm words do little to hide the complicated emotions stirred up by unexpectedly seeing Alba alive again. Far from Elena, Alba carries Celia through the streets until he is sure they have escaped. He apologizes for suddenly sweeping her up and running away. Celia says little, but her expression makes it obvious that being carried so casually by Alba has affected her more than the escape itself. Alba notices Celia's strange mood and asks whether she is angry. Celia denies it, then immediately starts describing how mature, beautiful, and well-endowed Elena is while insisting that she is absolutely not jealous. Her exaggerated denial is so transparent that Alba cannot help laughing. Alba tells Celia that she is a terrible liar, making her blush even harder. When he jokes about carrying the Saintess all the way to the house her father prepared for them, Celia loudly refuses, Despite the chaos, their familiar teasing returns almost immediately. As Alba continues through the capital with Celia, one conclusion becomes unavoidable. Life at Kriana Academy is going to be full of trouble from the very beginning. He has barely arrived, and has already been recognized by a heroine tied directly to his past and his death flags. After the disastrous wicked first encounter with Elena, Alba and Celia reach the house arranged for them in the capital. Celia is amazed that it is larger than their mountain cabin. For Alba, this new home represents the next stage of their academy life, and hopefully a place where he can finally breathe. Celia becomes even more excited when she discovers a vegetable garden beside the house, and immediately imagines growing crops again. Alba surveys the property and realizes just how expensive it must be. A 2-story home with its own garden in the heart of the royal capital is another reminder of the Pope's enormous influence. They explore the interior and find a proper kitchen, bath, living room, and separate rooms upstairs. After checking the layout, Alba admits that the house is excellent. For 2 people who had been sharing a tiny mountain cottage, their new home is almost unbelievably comfortable. Alba asks whether Celia's father also provided money for living expenses. Celia says no. The Pope specifically told her that, if she wants an ordinary life, she should learn to earn her own living. He is willing to help if she truly struggles, but he wants his daughter to become independent, rather than simply be spoiled. Realizing they cannot live on the house alone, Alba says he needs to find work immediately. Celia cheerfully announces that she will earn money for both of them, because her father already arranged a job for her at the church. Alba is surprised that she is ready to support their household herself. Celia's work makes sense, because the saintess possesses extraordinary blessings from the goddess. Her oracles can warn of disasters, while her high-level healing magic can cure wounds and illness. Believers naturally flock to her for help, and the church receives donations from the people who come seeking the saintess's power. Alba briefly wonders whether someone at the church deliberately chose Celia because her presence attracts massive donations. His mind even labels the saintess a goldmine before he catches himself. When Celia notices his scowl, he quickly dismisses the suspicious thought and tells her nothing is wrong. Even though Celia offers to earn the household's money, Alba refuses to sit around while she does all the work. He says his pride will not allow him to be supported by a girl. When he jokes that she should save that devotion for her future husband, Celia reacts strongly and whacks him before he understands why. Celia abruptly storms away after Alba's careless comment. Confused, he calls after her and offers to make dinner, even promising to cook whatever she wants. Her embarrassed expression makes it clear that his mention of a future husband struck a much more personal nerve than Alba realizes. Left alone, Alba lies back and wonders whether he actually said anything wrong. In his mind, he is only Celia's companion. Besides, he believes she already has a proper romantic match waiting for her in the game's original story. That person is Eurus, the true protagonist of Kriana fantasy. Handsome, skilled with both sword and magic, and possessing the virtues of a saint, Eurus is everything the villain Alba is not. In the game, the heroines, including Celia, are meant to fall for Eurus. Alba tells himself there is no reason for Celia to remain with him forever. Only a few months have passed since they met, and once her normal academy life begins, she can follow the future meant for her. He tries to believe that their peaceful life together was only temporary. Memories of the mountain cabin make that thought harder than expected. Alba remembers farming with Celia, eating freshly harvested vegetables, laughing over her clumsy cooking attempts, and spending quiet nights beneath the stars. For Celia, many of those ordinary experiences were firsts, and they became precious to both of them. Thinking back on those days, Alba remembers how relaxed and genuinely happy Celia looked beside him. Her bright smile became part of the peaceful life he had built. The memory makes it difficult to treat their relationship as nothing more than a temporary detour from the game's plot. Even so, Alba tells himself that if Celia eventually moves toward the life originally meant for her, he should accept it. Her leaving would even distance him from another death flag, but the moment he claims he would not miss her, Alba knows he is lying to himself. That night, Celia quietly comes to Alba's room and apologizes for how she reacted earlier. Alba is already resting, but her hesitant voice shows that she does not want their small disagreement to remain between them, The anger from dinner has faded into something much gentler. Celia thanks Alba for everything that allowed her to stand where she is now. Overcome by gratitude, she leans close and holds on to him as he rests. Whatever the game's intended romance may be, the bond between Alba and Celia has already become deeply personal to both of them. The next morning, Alba wakes and finds a note from Celia. She apologizes again, says she bought food, and explains that she has gone to the church for her duties. Alba smiles at the message, grateful that the tension between them has passed. He eats the hamburger Celia left behind, and is amused that food from his previous world exists here too. Then reality returns. Celia has gone to earn money, which means Alba needs to do the same. Determined not to rely on her income, he heads into the capital to find work of his own. Alba chooses the Adventurers Guild, an organization that manages requests from across the kingdom. Jobs range from simple deliveries to dangerous missions, such as exterminating magic beasts. For someone with Alba's combat ability, the guild offers a practical way to earn money without exposing his true identity. The people who accept those jobs are adventurers, men and women who gather for money, fame, or experience. Alba remembers that adventuring was not necessary to complete Kriana Fantasy's original story. But this is real life now, and he realizes that guild work may be the fastest route to a steady income. A high-level request advertising the extermination of a gigantic magic beast catches Alba's eye, along with its enormous 5 million curia reward. He is confident in the strength he built over 3 years, even though he has never actually fought a magic beast before. Then another adventurer points out that a newcomer cannot simply take a 5-star quest. Alba learns how the guild's star ranking system works. New adventurers must begin with low difficulty requests, complete jobs, and build a record before they are allowed to accept more dangerous and profitable missions. No matter how strong he is, Alba cannot skip the rules and jump straight to the biggest reward. With no alternative, Alba registers properly at the reception desk and receives his beginner adventurer status. The powerful runaway duke's son, who can turn himself into lightning, now has to start exactly like everyone else. At the very bottom of the guild hierarchy, Alba chooses a simple herb collection request in the Western Forest. A carriage would cost money, so he decides to run there instead and slowly raise his rank through beginner work. It is far less glamorous than slaying a gigantic beast, but for now earning honest money is the priority. Alba puts his lightning-enhanced body to practical use and sprints toward the Western Forest at a speed he compares to a bolt of lightning. He is even faster than a carriage. Elsewhere in the capital, 2 incoming students complain about the high cost of living and how much easier dorm life would have been. Those students, Yuris and Alice, talk about how fortunate they are to attend Kriana Academy despite being commoners. Suddenly, a violent gust rushes past them. As Alba tears through the street at incredible speed, Yuris immediately reacts to the strange presence. Sensing that something unusual just passed nearby, the 2 students are revealed clearly: Yuris, the protagonist of Kriana Fantasy, and Alice, his childhood friend. They have arrived in the capital together for the academy. Without realizing it, Alba has already crossed paths with the person he most desperately wants to avoid. Alice asks what caught Yuris's attention, but he tells her it is nothing and continues shopping with her. She has bought more than he expected. Joking that girls need all sorts of things, Yuris still glances back, unable to completely dismiss the strange gust that passed them. For only a brief moment, Yuris and Alba occupy the same street, before continuing in opposite directions. Neither stops to speak. Alba escapes without noticing how close he came to the protagonist, whose route could lead directly to his death. Alba reaches the forest, and quickly completes his beginner herb-gathering quest. Finding the requested plant is almost laughably easy, compared with the survival training he has done for 3 years. His first official adventurer job ends without a single serious obstacle. The forest terrain gives Alba no trouble at all. After years living deep in the mountains, climbing cliffs and moving through the wilderness feels natural to him. Even the guild's warning signs and restricted areas seem mild compared with the environment where he trained himself to survive. Alba returns to the guild only 3 hours later, surprising the receptionist because the journey should normally take about 6 hours round trip. He casually says that he simply ran very fast. With the herbs delivered, he receives his first reward as a registered adventurer. The reward is 10,000 curia for 3 hours of work. Alba realizes that 1-star requests will not be enough if he wants to earn serious money, so raising his guild rank quickly becomes his next goal. As he leaves, he also wonders how Celia's first day working at the church is going. At the church, Celia leads a huge congregation in prayer, asking the goddess to guide those who wander back to the right path. The believers erupt with excitement simply at seeing the saintess in person. Her work immediately demonstrates just how famous and beloved she is across the kingdom. The church followers are overjoyed, and Celia receives an enormous response from the crowd. Her presence attracts so many people that, in the same amount of time, she ends up earning far more than Alba did through his guild quest. Their attempts at ordinary working life are clearly operating on very different scales. After finishing his guild work, Alba rewards himself with ramen, and is delighted that the capital even has familiar food from his previous world. Then his thoughts return to a more dangerous subject. The Aretia Duchy also has a presence in the capital. His older brother should have inherited the family position, but Alba barely thinks of them as family anymore. Because the Aretias never publicly rejected the rumor that Alba died, he assumes they did not care much about him. Still, the capital is very different from the isolated mountains. People like Elena know his old face, so Alba reminds himself that he must remain alert and avoid anyone who might recognize him. Alba pulls his hood lower and continues through the streets, determined not to let his guard down. He has already learned that the smallest unexpected encounter can become a new death flag, and the crowded royal capital gives him far more chances to run into people from Alba's past. A sudden commotion erupts nearby when a horse bolts out of control. Pedestrians scatter as the runaway animal charges directly through the busy street. Alba turns toward the danger and sees a young noblewoman caught in its path with almost no time to escape. The girl freezes as the horse bears down on her. People scream for her to run, but she cannot move fast enough. Alba knows intervening could draw attention to himself, yet once again he cannot stand by while someone is about to be hurt in front of him. Before the horse can strike the girl, Alba bursts forward with his lightning speed. The sudden movement is so fast that the people watching can barely understand what happened. In an instant, he places himself between the runaway horse and its helpless target. A blue flash cuts across the street as Alba uses his lightning power to stop the danger. When the light fades, he immediately checks on the young woman and asks whether she is all right. His attempt to stay unnoticed has once again been sacrificed to save a stranger. The runaway horse lies safely brought down, while the girl remains unharmed nearby. The people around them stare at the mysterious hooded adventurer who ended the crisis almost instantly. Alba has prevented an accident, but he has also created exactly the kind of attention he wanted to avoid. Alba asks the stunned girl once more whether she is injured. She finally manages to answer that she is fine. With the immediate danger over, Alba tries to leave before anyone can look too closely at the face beneath his hood. The young woman thanks Alba profusely, and he even apologizes to the horse after knocking it down. Then she asks to see his face, saying she feels as though she has seen him before. Alba immediately panics because, if she is a noble, there is a real chance she knows Duke Arestia's missing second son. Alba regrets stepping in, but he knows he could never have ignored someone in danger. As the crowd praises his incredible rescue, another disturbance forms behind them. Alba senses that someone important is approaching, and realizes his chance of slipping away unnoticed is rapidly disappearing. An imposing nobleman arrives surrounded by armored guards. The rescued girl recognizes him at once as Duke Roy Aretia. For Alba, the name is disastrous. The man walking toward him is the head of the very family he abandoned. The girl introduces herself as Mina, and explains that she briefly met Roy at his succession ceremonies. She tells him that the hooded man saved her from the runaway horse. Alba finally realizes that Roy Aretia is his own older brother, and is now responsible for public order in the area. Alba absolutely cannot allow Roy to discover his identity. When Roy thanks him for saving Mina, Alba gives the shortest possible response, and immediately tries to excuse himself. Roy finds the hooded stranger's behavior suspiciously rude, making Alba's attempt to escape even more awkward. As Alba walks away, Roy suddenly says the name Alba. He explains that the stranger's voice reminded him of his foolish little brother. Alba freezes for a moment, realizing that even after 3 years away, Something as simple as his voice can still betray him. Roy asks to take a look at Alba's face. Alba keeps his hood low and says his face is not worth showing to a duke, but Roy insists that he will decide that for himself. With no easy excuse left, Alba is seconds away from being recognized by his own brother. Before Roy can force the issue, another voice cuts through the tension. Elena arrives and announces that she has finally found Al. Her timing shocks everyone, but for Alba it may be the only interruption capable of saving his secret identity. Elena politely greets Duke Roy, then approaches Alba as though meeting him here were completely ordinary. Alba, meanwhile, realizes the situation has somehow become even more dangerous. Two people who know the real Alba are now standing together in front of him. Alba sees his predicament clearly. Elena is a tiger directly in front of him, while Roy is a wolf waiting behind. Both have personal connections to Alba Aretia. With two people capable of exposing him at once, he has no idea which danger he should deal with first. Roy asks Elena whether she knows the hooded man. Without hesitation, Elena claims that he is her friend Al, a holy knight apprentice, and says she came to find him because he was late for their meeting. Alba is stunned as Elena smoothly provides the exact cover story he needs. Roy studies the situation and accepts that the man must be Al rather than Alba. Elena reinforces the lie by pointing out that she was once Alba's fiancée and could never mistake him for someone else. Besides, Alba is supposed to be dead. Her confidence finally convinces Roy to stand down. Roy apologizes to Al for the misunderstanding and openly dismisses his younger brother as the disgrace who stained the Aretia name. He then offers to escort Mina home. Alba thanks him politely, relieved that his own brother now believes the missing Alba is truly dead. Roy and his guards leave with Mina, while Alba remains behind with Elena. For the first time since the runaway horse incident began, the immediate threat of being exposed has passed. But Alba knows Elena did not rescue him for no reason. Alba thanks Elena for helping him escape the situation, and tries to leave before anything else happens. Elena stops him with her sword and says they need to talk. His relief disappears instantly. She may have protected his identity from Roy, but she still knows exactly who he is. Elena addresses him directly as Alba, and warns that she will reveal his true identity to Duke Roy if he keeps pretending cornered again. Alba realizes that the woman who saved his cover can destroy it just as easily, so avoiding the conversation is no longer an option. By the time Alba returns to Celia, he is exhausted by how much trouble has found him before classes have even started. He can only curse the goddess of fate for continuing to drag him toward dangerous connections. Running from his death flags is becoming harder with every day he spends in the capital. Alba prepares to explain the latest disaster, knowing that his secret identity is already under pressure from multiple directions. He has not even officially begun school, yet Elena, Roy, and the people of the capital have already shown how fragile his plan to remain unnoticed really is. The academy's opening ceremony finally begins. The energetic principal welcomes the new students and loudly declares that the goddess of destiny is shining on their futures. Alba recognizes the eccentric old man from the game, as the NPC players could consult for hints on how to progress the story. Entering the academy without immediate disaster is only the beginning. Alba remembers that this school is where the real death flags start appearing. Kriana Fantasy contains 5 major heroine routes, and each of them can connect in some way to Alba's eventual downfall. Alba is already involved with Celia and Elena, so he desperately wants to avoid adding the other heroines. One remaining heroine is a hidden princess who is difficult to encounter, which gives him some relief. But Lily, the sage's disciple, and the protagonist's childhood friend Alice are in his grade, making accidental contact much more likely. Even beyond the 5 heroines, there is one person Alba considers especially dangerous. Yuri's, the main protagonist of Kriana Fantasy. No matter what else happens, Alba believes getting close to Yuri's would place him directly on the path toward the villain's original fate. Alba suddenly spots Eurus among the students and immediately turns away. Alice notices Eurus looking in his direction, but Eurus says nothing is wrong. Alba silently repeats his most important rule. Stay away from the protagonist at all costs, and do not draw attention to himself. Inside the unicorn classroom, Alba takes a quiet seat beside Celia and tries to blend into the background. For once, he has a simple plan: sit quietly, avoid every dangerous character he remembers, and begin school without creating another incident. That plan immediately collides with Celia's fame. Classmates whisper excitedly about the Saintess, making Alba worry that the normal school life she dreamed about will be impossible. Celia nevertheless stands before the class and introduces herself calmly as Celia Margaret. Celia explains that she is a first-year student just like everyone else and asks the class to treat her as a classmate rather than the Saintess. She even asks them to call her simply Celia, without honorifics. Her sincerity instantly wins over the entire room, leaving Alba amazed at how naturally she captures people's hearts. Once Celia settles in, several students begin staring at Alba instead. Some feel they have seen him somewhere before, which alarms him because many nobles at the academy could recognize the missing duke's son. Even with different hair and a completely changed personality, he knows his disguise is not perfect. Celia enthusiastically introduces Alba to the class as her friend and the Holy Knight apprentice Al. Alba internally panics, convinced that telling everyone to befriend a suspicious-looking man like him cannot possibly work. Celia simply tells them he is shy and asks everyone to get along with him too. To Alba's disbelief, Celia's request works. The class immediately greets him warmly, and he realizes once again how overwhelming the Saintess's social influence can be. Elena also reveals that she is in the unicorn class, meaning Alba's former fiancé will be his classmate as well. The students openly admire Elena's beauty and famous swordsmanship. Alba remembers that he already told her the truth about his identity after their last confrontation. Celia is stunned when she learns that Elena is not merely someone from Alba's past. She is his former fiancé. Later, Alba and Elena speak privately. Elena asks why he disappeared 3 years ago, assuming he became fed up with his family and ran away. Alba says that he abandoned his former life and considers himself reborn as someone new. He knows the real explanation, reincarnation and death flags, would sound impossible even to her. Elena explains that after Alba vanished, the Aretia family sent notice, ending their engagement without explanation. Rumors even claimed the family had secretly killed its problem child. She bluntly admits Alba used to be a crude, filthy womanizer, but when she actually believed he was dead, her feelings were far more complicated than hatred. To Alba's surprise, Elena admits that she cried when she thought he had died. The confession triggers a memory from Alba's childhood, suggesting that the original Alba and Elena once shared a bond deeper than anything shown in the game. For a moment, Alba can't reconcile that memory with the villain he thought he understood. Elena quietly admits that she did not completely hate Alba back then. Alba realizes this must be part of the world's history that never appeared in Kriana fantasy. It raises an unsettling possibility. Perhaps the original Alba was not always the irredeemable person the game portrayed him as. Elena says the current Alba really does seem reborn. He protected a stranger from a runaway horse and now serves as the bodyguard of the Saintess he once saved. Because so many nobles at the academy still hate the old Alba, Elena agrees to help keep his identity secret. Alba thanks Elena for her help, but she immediately adds a condition. In exchange for protecting his secret, Alba must help her deal with the endless parade of suitors she has faced ever since their engagement was annulled. The favor he owes his former fiancée is going to follow him into school life. Back in class, Alba reminds Elena not to forget their agreement. Celia catches the exchange and immediately becomes curious about what kind of promise the former fiancés are keeping between them. Alba's attempt to manage one problem has already created a new source of suspicion beside him. Celia then asks Elena to drop the formal Saintess treatment and call her simply Celia, since they are classmates. Elena agrees and asks Celia to use her first name as well. The two girls quickly become friendly, each privately admiring how cute or beautiful the other is. Celia still demands to know what secret Alba and Elena are keeping from her. Alba insists he is not deliberately hiding anything from her, but the timing is terrible. Other boys also start teasing him for standing between the Saintess and Elena, calling it a flower in each hand despite his lowly apprentice identity. One arrogant student challenges Alba for not recognizing him. He introduces himself as Walby, eldest son of Count Walgett. Elena immediately identifies Walby as one of the suitors she wants Alba to deal with, and his smug attitude quickly explains why. Walby launches into another marriage proposal, praising Elena's status and insisting House Walgett would be an excellent match for the prestigious Persia family. He claims he could not let the opportunity pass now that they are classmates. Alina looks thoroughly unimpressed, while Alba watches the performance grow more self-important by the second. Walby continues claiming that marrying him would benefit both noble families and asks Elena to accompany him through life. Alba finally interrupts. He says he hates people who talk about Elena as though family honor and political advantage are the only things that matter, and bluntly tells Walby he is not suited for her. Alba tells Walby that he does not understand Elena's true worth as a person at all. To Alba, the fact that she is simply Elena is already enough. His words hit Elena much harder than he realizes, while Walby takes the rejection as a direct insult to his pride. Furious, Walby accuses Alba of besmirching House Walgott's honor and demands satisfaction. He throws down a handkerchief as a formal challenge. Alba stares at it in confusion, only realizing that defending Elena has just dragged him into yet another confrontation. The handkerchief lands between Al and Walby, making the challenge official. All can only stare in disbelief as the surrounding students erupt over the sudden duel. Word of the duel spreads instantly, and a crowd gathers to watch. Celia cheers Al on while he worries that drawing this much attention could expose the identity he has worked so hard to hide. What was supposed to be a quiet school life has already become a spectacle. Before the fight can begin, the Academy's dueling rules are explained. Duels for honor are allowed, but killing is forbidden, a designated witness is required, and the match must take place in the official arena. With those conditions met, Al has no easy way to slip out of Walby's challenge. The two students take their positions in the Academy arena, with Kate Sith serving as the official witness. As the crowd looks on, the duel between Al and Walby finally begins. Elena and Celia are shocked that Al actually accepted, while Al privately realizes he did not even know the Academy had formal dueling rules. Kate Sith asks both sides to declare what honor is at stake, and Walby gives Al one last chance to flee. Al remembers that dueling was only a side system in the original game and had nothing to do with Alba's death flags. That makes the risk seem manageable. Walby declares that if Al loses, he must stay away from Elena, and he even tries to claim the Saintess as part of the wager. Al accepts. Al sets his own condition. If he wins, Walby must stay away from both girls. With both sides having declared their oaths, Kate Sith signals the official start of the duel. Elena explains that Walby is famous for his fire magic and is considered one of the best students in their year. Walby immediately begins a long incantation, gathering an enormous amount of flame for a high-level spell. Walby completes the chant and unleashes Hell Flame, a powerful fire attribute spell far beyond what an ordinary first year would normally use. The roaring inferno rushes straight toward Al as the spectators freeze in alarm. The spell detonates across the arena in a massive explosion. Celia and the others cry out Al's name as flames, and smoke swallows the spot where he had been standing. For a moment, it looks as though Walby's attack landed cleanly. Walby laughs, convinced he has burned Al to a crisp, but Kate Sith remains calm. As the witness, he is ready to stop the duel before anyone dies, yet he has seen no reason to intervene. That alone suggests the fight is far from over. When the smoke clears, Al is already standing behind Walby. His speed shocks everyone, and Walby cannot understand when Al slipped past the flames. Al points out the obvious weakness of a long incantation. While Walby was chanting, he left himself completely open. Walby swings his sword, but Al dodges at impossible speed. Elena recognizes the movement immediately. Al did not merely create lightning around himself. He transformed his own body into the phenomenon of lightning, allowing him to move before Walby could react. Watching closely, Lily analyzes what Al has done. Ordinary magic adds a phenomenon to the world, but Al has applied that phenomenon directly to himself and activated it without an incantation. The technique is so difficult and dangerous that Lily compares his power to that of her own master, the sage. The quiet girl observing the duel is Lily, one of Kriana Fantasy's heroines and the disciple of the sage. Even after witnessing Al's extraordinary lightning magic, she remains composed and confidently believes she would not lose to him. Walby refuses to accept being outclassed and begins chanting Hell Flame again. Al calmly watches him prepare the same spell. To Al, the long chant only creates another enormous opening, and he tells Walby he will not let the attack reach him this time. Walby launches his flames once more, but Al bursts forward through the attack at lightning speed. The distance between them disappears before Walby can properly respond. Al drives a lightning-fast strike into Walby before the fire spell can decide the match. The impact erupts with enough force to send Walby flying across the arena. Walby crashes outside the designated ring, ending the duel immediately. Kate Sith declares Al the winner. Al looks at the damage and briefly wonders if he may have overdone it. Walby is left unconscious but alive, and the Academy's medical staff quickly takes charge of him. Al casually raises a hand to the stunned crowd, while Kate Sith confirms that the match is over. Among the spectators are Eurus, the original protagonist of Kriana Fantasy, and Alice, his childhood friend and one of the heroines. Both are impressed by Sal's overwhelming victory. Eurus notices something important. Despite the huge impact, Al never actually struck Walby directly. Eurus explains what happened. Al only rushed forward and thrust out his arm, but at lightning speed that motion created a massive shockwave strong enough to blast Walby away. Alice finally realizes just how absurd Al's physical control and speed really are. Most students saw nothing but a flash of blue light, yet Eurus was able to follow Al's movements from beginning to end. Alice asks whether that means Eurus could defeat him. But Eurus knows that seeing an attack and reacting to it are two very different things. Alice presses Eurus for an answer. He says there is no reason for the two of them to fight, but when she asks what he would do if Al hurt someone important to him, his expression hardens. In that situation, Eurus says he would not lose. After the duel, Celia happily praises Al, while Elena is genuinely stunned by how strong he has become. Al simply says he trained while living deep in the mountains, but Elena knows better than anyone that Alba always possessed frightening natural talent. Al remembers that the original Alba was already strong enough to become the game's final boss. Unlike that version of himself, however, he has spent years seriously training and leveling up. He realizes that with this growth, he may now be capable of becoming the strongest character in the entire setting. Elena remarks that Alba once hated hard work so much that the person standing before her feels completely different. Al jokes that he has been reborn into a new man. When Celia asks whether the old Alba was really that terrible, Elena bluntly calls him the worst kind of scum. But Celia still insists that the Alba she knows is a wonderful person. Al privately admits that he may have gone a little too far against Walby. Elena is not worried, reminding him that Celia can heal almost anything if necessary. Celia then thanks Al for fighting the duel, and he reminds her of the promise he made. Al looks directly at Celia and repeats that promise. He will save her. The simple words leave Elena visibly flustered as the moment between them grows unexpectedly sincere. Al concludes that the duel itself had nothing to do with his death flags, so his original reasoning was not entirely wrong. Even so, fate is clearly moving in ways he cannot see, because the major characters of the game are beginning to gather around him, one after another. Sometime later, Celia wakes Al for breakfast, after he once again sleeps past the morning. Their life together has settled into an almost domestic routine. Although Al complains that he can barely breathe after the way she woke him, Celia proudly announces that breakfast is ready. Celia's cooking has improved greatly thanks to the practice she got while living in the mountains. Al offers to handle dinner that night. Before they leave for school, Celia hands him a homemade lunch and reminds him not to forget it. Al pauses when he sees the bento Celia prepared, but quickly brushes off whatever thought crossed his mind. The two head for Kriana Academy together, with Celia wondering whether something is bothering him. The academy is already full of students when they arrive. Al exchanges casual morning greetings, including one with Elena, as everyone heads toward class. For once, the school day appears completely ordinary. Al reflects that his life at Kriana Academy has been surprisingly peaceful since the duel on the first day. The heroines are all living their own lives without major trouble, and nothing that looks like an immediate death flag has appeared. There is one downside to Al's spectacular victory. Most of the other students are now terrified of him and avoid getting too close. He appreciates that the distance keeps him away from dangerous events, though he cannot deny feeling a little lonely. At lunch, Elena asks Celia to eat together and then wonders where Al has gone. Celia explains that he devoured his entire bento before the break even started and went off to take a nap. Despite everything that has changed, she sighs that Al is still a delinquent at heart. Al intentionally avoids lunch with Celia because in the original game, sharing lunch with a heroine raises affection and brings the protagonist closer to her root. Just as he thinks he has escaped one dangerous event, a girl approaches and politely asks if she may join him for lunch. The girl thanks Al for helping her in town and introduces herself as Mina. She has been looking for a chance to properly express her gratitude since the runaway horse incident. Al finally recognizes her as the girl he saved that day. Mina explains that she was surprised to discover her rescuer was a first year at the same academy. To thank him, she has prepared a bento especially for him. The words lunch event immediately flash through Al's mind, and he hesitates. Al searches his memory for a heroine named Mina, but none exists among the game's main girls. He realizes she is only a side character. Relieved that eating with her should not trigger a heroine route, he changes his attitude as Mina starts to apologize for bothering him. Since Mina is not one of the heroines, Al decides there should be no danger in accepting her kindness. He thanks her and happily takes the bento, while Mina brightens at his response. Al eats Mina's lunch and genuinely praises how delicious it is. Mina is thrilled. He asks her to drop the formal sir and simply call him Al, then warns that getting close to him may cause other students to avoid her as well. Mina says she does not care what other people think because befriending Al is a decision she made for herself. Her earnest resolve catches him off guard, joking that he might have to save her again someday. She asks whether he will help, and Al readily promises to do everything he can. Their friendly lunch is suddenly interrupted by Celia, who appears with an unmistakably jealous expression. She asks whether Al is having fun and accuses him of refusing to eat with her while flirting with another girl. Al hurriedly insists that Celia has misunderstood and that he is not hitting on Mina. Celia merely excuses herself and heads back toward the classroom, leaving Mina and Al behind in an awkward silence. Afterward, Al explains to Elena that Mina is the student he saved from the runaway horse. Elena recognizes the name and says Mina comes from the Lupica barony. That detail reminds Al that Mina is connected to the next major academy event, which is finally about to begin. The event is the youth field trip, Kriana Fantasy's first major in-game scenario. Students enter Niab Forest, fight weak magic beasts, and gather medicinal herbs. In the game it functioned as a battle tutorial, but for Al it is dangerous because major heroine choices are built into the event. Al remembers that the decisions made during the field trip determine which heroine the protagonist grows closer to. That means the same harmless-looking tutorial can also become another path leading straight toward Alba's death flags. The class arrives at Niab Forest for the field trip. Caesia admits that fighting magic beasts sounds frightening, though the creatures in this area are supposed to be weak. With the students assembled, the instructor prepares to lead them into the forest. The teacher confidently tells everyone to stay together and not to worry, boasting that he is not the kind of instructor who would lose to a magic beast. Celia is reassured by Al's presence as the group follows the teacher deeper into the woods. Al knows the teacher's confidence will not last. He remembers that the field trip soon branches into several event choices involving the heroines. One route has the protagonist remain with Celia and help rescue and treat injured students. Other choices involve fighting beside Elena, rescuing Alice after she becomes separated, or pushing deeper into the forest. All can remember 3 of the routes clearly, but frustratingly, the exact details of the 4th option refuse to come back to him. Whatever the missing choice is, Al knows the event is designed to force the protagonist into one of those heroine scenarios. His own priority is the opposite. Stay out of every route and avoid creating another connection that could become a death flag. The students continue advancing through Niab Forest. As the peaceful training exercise gets underway, Al stays alert, waiting for the moment when the game's scripted incident should begin. As the class approaches the magic beast's habitat, the teacher orders everyone to remain calm and not act recklessly. Al suddenly senses something strange in the forest, a presence that does not belong in an ordinary beginner-level field trip. The uneasy feeling becomes reality when a huge wave of magic beasts suddenly charges through the forest. The peaceful tutorial instantly turns into a full-scale stampede. Students panic as the beasts rush in, but the adults and stronger fighters shout for everyone to stay calm and retreat. Eurus also notices the strange presence behind the attack, making it clear This is not a normal training exercise. The battle erupts throughout the forest as the stampede crashes into the academy group. The scripted field trip event has begun, but on a scale far more dangerous than Al remembers from the game. The students are ordered to evacuate while someone holds the beasts back as a decoy. Al realizes that the event's real battle phase has started. With magic beasts pouring in from every direction, the class begins scattering into the very situations he hoped to avoid. As Al fights through the chaos, he remembers that his choices during this incident can affect his affinity with the heroines. Then he hears Eurus being called for somewhere in the forest, signaling that the game's branching events are already taking shape. Al knows that getting too close to any of the heroines is exactly what he must avoid if he wants to survive. He therefore decides to stay away from the obvious route choices, even while the emergency unfolds around him. Thinking of how the original Alba would behave, Al chooses the option that seems least heroic. Abandoning the main group instead of deliberately chasing a heroine event. If he can leave the scripted routes to Eurus, he believes he may finally avoid the flags meant for Alba. Al races deeper through the forest, while the sounds of battle echo behind him. But as the situation grows stranger, the question becomes whether running away from the game's intended choices will actually keep him out of trouble. Al suddenly crashes into the battlefield and blows away the magic beast, threatening Celia's group. Celia is relieved to see him, while Al immediately shifts his attention to getting the injured students out safely. Al thanks Celia for treating the wounded and tells her to leave the forest at once. Celia refuses. Although she is frightened, she knows her healing power can save people, so she chooses to remain and continue helping the injured. Celia asks Al to save everyone and tells him that she believes in his strength. Her trust cuts through all of his calculations about routes and death flags. Al decides that, for the moment, surviving is not about game logic. It is about protecting the people in front of him. Calling his earlier obsession with saving only himself pathetic, Al throws himself into the fight. He tears through the attacking magic beasts with lightning-fast attacks, while telling Celia to leave the dangerous part to him. Al keeps the beasts occupied and orders the others to hurry out of the area. Nearby, Elena is also fighting hard to open an escape route for the students. The two strongest fighters begin stabilizing the collapsing battlefield. Al checks that Elena is all right, and she tells him not to underestimate her. Trusting her abilities, he leaves that section of the forest in her hands. Al announces that he is heading deeper into Nahab Forest, while Elena warns him not to lower his guard. Al remembers that the field trip event should end once the boss in the deepest part of Nahab Woods is defeated. As he races toward it, however, he notices another problem. The kinds of magic beasts appearing here do not match what he remembers from the game. The original event was a beginner tutorial filled only with weak monsters, yet the forest is now crawling with beasts that should not appear until much later in the game. Al wonders whether the scenario itself is changing, or whether his own actions as Alba are causing the deviation. The answer becomes even more alarming when Al reaches the supposed boss. Instead of the simple enemy he remembers, a three-headed chimera stands in his path. The field trip boss has changed completely. Al remembers the chimera as a troublesome enemy even in the game, far beyond what should appear in a tutorial. Then he hears someone calling for help. Alice is trapped by the beast and, despite the danger, introduces herself before desperately begging Al to save her. Alice explains that she became separated from the others and was caught by the chimera. Al instantly recognizes her as Jus's childhood friend and one of the heroines. Even though rescuing her risks triggering a rout, he cannot simply leave her to die and tells her to hold on. Al attacks the chimera with his lightning, expecting to force it back, but the blow barely works. The unexpected resistance reminds him that this monster has a special mechanic that makes fighting it alone much more difficult. Alice recalls the chimera's changing weakness. It has two phases. Sometimes it resists magic and is vulnerable to physical attacks, and at other times the opposite is true. Because Al is using lightning magic, they realize the beast is currently in its magic-resistant state. In the game, the player defeated the chimera by coordinating party members. Celia with magic and Elena with her sword, depending on the current weakness. Al tries to imitate that strategy by closing the distance and switching to a normal physical attack. Al lands a direct punch, but Even that fails to properly damage the chimera. Frustrated, he realizes that fighting the monster, barehanded, is not enough, especially when he does not have a suitable weapon with him. Alice tells Al they have to work together, then immediately admits that she cannot exactly help, much after being captured without a weapon. Before they can settle on a plan, the chimera presses its attack again. The chimera's snake head seizes Alice, and she screams for help as it lifts her off the ground. Al rushes toward her, but the monster's multiple heads make it difficult to reach her safely. Just as the situation becomes critical, a powerful strike slams into the chimera and forces it back. Alice is released from its grasp, and Al looks toward the newcomer in surprise. The person who intervened is Yuris. He has finally caught up to Alice, and immediately places himself between her and the chimera. The original protagonist has entered the battle exactly when his childhood friend needs him most. Alice clings to Yuris in relief, saying she knew he would come for her. Yuris tells her to rest while he faces the roaring chimera. The gentle expression on his face disappears as he turns toward the creature that hurt someone precious to him. Yuris charges the chimera with a completely different intensity. Anyone who harms someone important to him will not be forgiven. Al watches the protagonist's strength explode under the pressure of protecting Alice. Yuris's swordplay is even more impressive than Al expected, allowing him to meet the chimera head-on. Al is forced to admit that the game's protagonist is frighteningly strong in actual combat. Alice notices that the chimera's resistance has shifted again. Physical attacks were effective a moment ago, but they are no longer working. That means the monster has entered its other phase and is now vulnerable to magic. Al immediately takes advantage of the opening and blasts the chimera with lightning. The magical attack now hits properly, driving the monster back and confirming that the two of them can alternate according to its changing weakness. Watching Yuris fight beside him, Al feels deeply conflicted. Yuris is the person he least wants to cooperate with, because the game's hero and villain are destined to become enemies. Yet defeating the chimera quickly may require exactly that partnership. Al finally calls out to Yuris and offers him a hand. He insists that the alliance is only to finish the event faster. Yuris recognizes him from the academy and accepts without hesitation. Al asks what the plan is, but Yuris quickly realizes there is no need for anything complicated. The two of them only have one job: keep attacking according to the chimera's weakness. For Al, it is the worst possible scenario, forming a team with the hero who is supposed to become his rival. Yuris rushes in with his sword, while Al attacks with lightning. Their alternating pressure prevents the chimera from settling into either defensive phase. Whenever it becomes strong against one type of attack, the other fighter is already waiting. The two first years quickly find their rhythm. Al calls for them to strike together, and Yuris answers immediately. Their combined assault overwhelms the chimera before it can recover. Al realizes the monster chose the worst possible opponents. If it blocks Al's magic, Yuris cuts it down with his sword. If it guards against Yuris, Al's lightning tears through it. The chimera has no safe defense against both of them at once. Their synchronized attacks continue until even the chimera can no longer keep up. Alice watches in amazement as Al and Yuris display the power of what may be the strongest first-year duo in the academy. Yuris is especially struck by Al's technique of transforming his own body into lightning. He sees firsthand how terrifying Al's speed and magical talent are. The battle makes both boys far more aware of the other's strength. Al is equally unsettled by Yuris. The hero's footwork and swordsmanship are good enough to keep pace with Al's lightning-assisted movements. For the first time, Al understands just how dangerous Yuris could become if they ever truly fought as enemies. With the chimera defeated, Alice thanks both boys for rescuing her. She then asks how Yuris and Al already know each other. Yuris explains that he saw Al's duel at school, while Al awkwardly tries to keep their connection from becoming any deeper than necessary. Yuris reveals that he and Alice grew up together in the same village, and that she has always been like a little sister to him. Al quietly thinks that this fits the game's backstory perfectly, while Alice cheerfully confirms how close they have always been. Alice lightly complains about Yuris treating her like a younger sister, but Yuris's obvious concern makes clear how much he values her. Al watches the pair and is reminded that Yuris is not merely a game protagonist. He is a genuinely decent person. Yuri suggests that Al return to the others with them, since they fought together and can simply walk back as friends. Al firmly refuses, claiming he hates hanging around people. He is determined not to let one temporary team-up turn into a close relationship with the hero. Alice tells Al she will never forget what he did for them and smiles warmly before leaving with Eurus. Al is rattled enough to tell her not to smile at him like that, because every friendly connection feels like another possible route he does not want. Al reminds himself that he and Eurus are supposed to be rivals destined to kill each other. That destiny would be much easier to accept if Eurus were an awful person, but the hero's kindness makes Al's situation far more complicated. After the others leave, Al senses that someone else has been watching the entire battle from a distance. He turns toward the trees and demands that the hidden observer reveal themselves. Al cannot see the watcher, but in his lightning form, he can sense nearby presences almost like a personal radar. He concludes that the person is using some kind of invisibility magic. He warns them that hiding is useless and asks whether they are an enemy. The invisible observer is shocked that Al can detect her colorless camouflage. She finally drops the spell and appears in front of him. Al immediately recognizes the girl from the game. She introduces herself as Lily, one of Kriana Fantasy's main heroines. Lily already knows Al's name because his flashy duel made him famous among the first years. Al inwardly curses Walby all over again for forcing him into the spotlight. Al asks why Lily was hiding, and she calmly says she was simply observing the battle. Her camouflage is a rare form of magic that Al has only heard about from his master. Then Lily turns the conversation toward the defeated Chimera. Without warning, the Chimera's corpse begins dissolving and completely vanishes. Al is stunned, because an ordinary magic beast should not disappear like that after being killed. Lily explains that the Chimera was not a real creature, but an imitation of a phenomenon transferred from another dimension. Once the magic sustaining it faded, the imitation vanished. Her explanation leaves Al struggling to follow the deeper magical theory behind what happened. Lily explains that magic does not simply manipulate ordinary natural forces. Mana reaches into another world's principles, imitates a desired phenomenon such as fire, and manifests that imitation in Kriana's world. Al finally understands that even his lightning form is, in that sense, borrowing a phenomenon from elsewhere. The Chimera was created by the same principle. Someone used magic to reproduce the phenomenon of a chimera from another world and manifest it here. Because creating an imitation magic beast requires exceptional skill, Al realizes that a powerful unknown caster deliberately targeted the students. Elsewhere, two mysterious women observe the aftermath. One is impressed that a first year managed to defeat a chimera, and remarks that Kriana Academy is not half bad. Their conversation confirms that the attack was intentional. The women discuss the academy as one of the world's 3 great authorities alongside the royal family and the church. One of them, called Yoru, has exhausted her mana creating the beasts and cannot use her magic for a while. They decide to withdraw and wait for another opportunity. When asked why she does not act herself, the other woman laughs that her powers are not suited to dealing with groups. Their retreat makes it clear that the real enemy remains hidden and intends to strike again later. Al knows that the field trip was only a tutorial event in the original game, yet the scenario is now changed drastically. A mage capable of creating artificial magic beasts was never part of what he remembers. He treats the unknown attacker as a possible new death flag, and vows to show no mercy if they stand in his way. With the chimera gone, Al prepares to return to the others and assumes the forest should finally be safe. Before leaving, Lily asks who taught him magic. Al answers that he taught himself, which only makes her interest in him grow stronger. Lily openly says that Al has piqued her interest, and leaves with a promise that they will meet again. Only after she is gone does Al remember the 4th field trip route he could not recall. Showing Lily unusual magic was the event that forged a bond with her. Al mentally reviews the heroine flags. Celia's route involved working together on rescues. Elena's involved fighting beside her. Alice's involved saving her from a magic beast, and Lily's involved making her interested in his magic. Without intending to, Al has touched every single route condition. The realization hits him all at once. Instead of avoiding the field trip death flags, he has triggered the conditions associated with every heroine. His attempt to escape the game's routes has somehow produced the exact opposite result. Even so, Al looks around and sees that everyone survived the attack. For the moment, that matters more than his fear of future flags. He decides to be grateful that the students are safe and deal with the consequences later. Back at the academy, Kate Sith reports that there were no casualties, despite the students being attacked by imitation magic beasts. The headmaster thanks Tamakuro for the report. The administration immediately begins asking who the attackers were truly targeting, and what their real objective might be. The enemy remains completely shrouded in mystery. No one knows who they are, where they came from, or why they were able to interfere with the field trip. The uncertainty leaves the academy leadership on high alert. The hidden attackers are confident, but they also acknowledge that they should not underestimate Kriana Academy. The first years have already shown enough strength to ruin an operation that was supposed to overwhelm them. Roy Oresia, acting as Knight Commander, orders a complete search of the forest for traces of the culprits. He suspects the first-year students may have been the target, and the altered scenario leaves Al's future moving even farther away from the game he remembers. Despite the attack, the field trip continues according to schedule, and the students stay overnight at a local inn. They are shown a magical bath that can heal injuries and illness. After the exhausting battle, everyone is encouraged to rest and recover. Al is surprised when the academy publicly treats the incident as part of a practical combat lesson. Claiming the artificial magic beasts were prepared for training, Elena realizes the story is a cover, but agrees that hiding the truth may be necessary to prevent panic among the students. Eurus and Lily also appear to sense that something real happened, even if the academy is concealing it. Celia, meanwhile, is confused by the complicated explanation. With the danger temporarily contained, the group turns toward the promised hot spring and a much lighter evening. At the inn, Al enthusiastically enjoys the tatami room and jokes about it being the soul of Japan, even though Kriana's world mixes Japanese and Western culture. As everyone gets ready for dinner and the baths, the boys jokingly warn him not to peek into the women's side. The joke reminds Al of a hidden Kriana fantasy event, peeking into the women's bath. Choosing to peek lets the player see the heroines, but it crashes their affection to -1 and makes romance impossible. For Al, however, lowering heroine affection sounds dangerously useful if it can also reduce his death flags. On the women's side, the girls relax in the hot spring. Alice openly admires Celia, while Elena complains that her chest only gets in the way of swordsmanship. The carefree conversation quickly becomes rowdy, as Alice gets far too physically affectionate. The topic turns toward Elena's old engagement to Alba, and the girls begin asking what her relationship with Al is now. The questions create exactly the kind of romantic discussion Al has been trying to avoid without even being present. Meanwhile, Al lingers outside, caught between the ridiculous hidden event and his determination to stay away from death flags. He has no genuine desire to peep, but the possibility of lowering everyone's affection leaves him momentarily conflicted. As Al spaces out, Eurus notices and asks what is wrong with him. Before Al can settle on anything, a sudden commotion from the women's bath gives him a completely different reason to move. Inside, Elena and Celia compare their feelings toward Al. Both insist that gratitude and respect are the main reasons they value him. Neither girl openly calls it romance, but it is obvious that Al has become very important to both of them. Alice joins the conversation and reveals that Al saved her from the chimera as well. The three girls finally introduce themselves properly, with Alice cheerfully dropping formalities almost immediately, without realizing it. Several of the game's heroines are becoming friends through their shared connection to Al. Alice explains how the chimera vanished after being defeated, and how strange the entire field trip attack was. The girls wonder who could have created the imitation beasts. Then Alice becomes distracted by the fact that Celia is the saintess and begins staring at her with overwhelming excitement. Alice finally gives in to that excitement and starts touching Celia's chest, leaving Celia flustered and Elena exasperated. The saintess's startled scream echoes loudly enough to carry outside the bath. Al hears the scream and immediately assumes someone is in danger. Without stopping to think about where the sound came from, he rushes toward it at full speed. His protective instincts completely override the peeping dilemma from moments earlier. Al bursts into the women's bathing area and is met with a wall of screaming. The girls are naked, the situation is a misunderstanding, and Al realizes far too late what he has just done. His panic triggers lightning in the hot spring, electrocuting the surrounding students and making the disaster even worse. After the chaos settles, Al explains that he only rushed in because he heard a scream. Everyone except Tame was not his original intention, but they also point out that charging into a bath with lightning was hardly acceptable. Ironically, Al realizes he has still managed to complete the game's peeping event. Alice apologizes for causing the scream, and Celia admits she should not have yelled so loudly. Al complains about just the trouble while the girls tease him for the view he accidentally got. He is relieved that their affection may have dropped, even if the result strangely hurts more than he expected. Yuris explains that he and Alice grew up in a village with strong legends about the goddess and the hero who protected her. Because of those teachings, the saintess is especially important to them. That makes Alice's shameless behavior towards Celia even more absurd, though she insists she already apologized. Celia tells Yuris that they are classmates, so he can stop calling her saintess and speaking so formally. Elena agrees. Al watches Yuris naturally grow closer to the heroines, and is struck by how perfectly he fits the role of the game's rightful protagonist. When dinner approaches, Al leaves ahead of the others. Alone, he admits the truth to himself. He felt a little jealous of Yuris. He is supposed to be the villain, yet seeing the protagonist easily become part of the group bothers him more than he wants to admit. Later, while everyone eats and relaxes, someone notices that Mina is missing. Since she is a first year, and should have been part of the trip, the absence suddenly feels strange. The mood shifts as the group wonders whether something happened to her. Elena reveals the terrible news she heard that morning. Mina's parents, the heads of the Lupica family, were murdered. The cheerful atmosphere disappears instantly as everyone realizes what Mina has been dealing with. Mina is shown alone in grief, unable to understand why such a tragedy happened to her family. The loss has left her isolated and emotionally shattered. Overwhelmed, Mina silently wishes for someone to help her. Her loneliness makes clear that the cheerful classmate Al befriended is carrying far more pain than anyone around her realized. The killer has not been caught. Al is disturbed because Mina was only a side character in the original game, someone who should not have been deeply involved in the main scenario. He begins wondering whether her parents' deaths could somehow connect to the altered events and, by extension, to his own death flags. Celia says she wishes they could do something for Mina, because death is too painful a burden to carry alone. Al remembers how much sorrow Celia herself has witnessed as people sacrifice themselves to protect the saintess. Her compassion convinces him that worrying only about game mechanics would be wrong. Al decides that death flags have nothing to do with this choice. Mina is his friend, and he will do whatever he can to support her. For once, he acts simply because someone he cares about is hurting. A month passes after the field trip, bringing the calendar into June. School's life becomes peaceful again, and Al settles back into classes with the others. The quiet period gives him time to think about how Kriana Fantasies originally structured its 3 years at the academy. Kriana Fantasy follows a 12-month calendar and a school life similar to Japan, complete with 4 seasons. Across 3 academy years, the player can study, adventure, do business, master magic, and pursue countless goals. All of those systems ultimately lead toward growth, major events, and possible romance with the heroines. Al passes Celia and Elena during another ordinary school day, while remembering that a successful player can build a fulfilling relationship with the heroines. That is exactly the kind of ending he has no intention of pursuing as Alba Aretia, no matter which route the game takes. Alba is designed to play the villain against the protagonist. His role ultimately ends in ruin. Al therefore remains determined to avoid the main cast and refuse the path the original villain was supposed to follow. As Al reflects on that fate, he encounters Yuris again. The sight of the protagonist is an uncomfortable reminder that the game expects the hero and villain to clash sooner or later. Al wants no part of that confrontation. The other students praise Yuris for earning the highest score in the Fenrir class practical exam. Alice is proudly impressed, while Yuris dismisses the result as luck. Al, by contrast, has deliberately done poorly enough to stay unnoticed and avoids any invitation to compete seriously. Celia praises Eurus's accomplishment, while Al bluntly says he failed, and heads off to eat lunch alone. Eurus understands that Al prefers solitude, but the girls begin wondering whether he left because he was jealous of Celia praising someone else. The suggestion of jealousy catches Celia's attention, while Elena immediately responds with her usual sharpness. Their speculation is completely different from Al's actual reason for keeping his distance. Al is soon back to napping alone and minimizing contact with the main characters. He tells himself that if he lives quietly, avoids becoming the original villain, and interacts with the cast as little as possible, he can survive. In his mind, isolation is still the safest strategy. Mina approaches Al during lunch and asks if they can eat together. Because she is a background character rather than one of the game heroines, Al feels no reason to refuse. Her presence is one of the few relationships he can enjoy without immediately thinking about route mechanics. Al finds it much easier to speak naturally with Mina because he does not associate her with a scripted death flag. Without the constant fear of triggering a heroine route, he can listen to her problems and answer honestly. When Mina opens up, Al reassures her that he will be there for her and help however he can. Mina thanks him and says she knew coming to see him was the right choice. His support reminds her of the kindness he showed when they first met. Mina says talking to Al has already restored some of her energy. Their conversation is interrupted when Celia arrives and greets Mina. Having known exactly where to find Al, Mina is surprised but politely returns the greeting. Celia reveals that everyone is gathering at Al's house after school and invites Mina as well. What Mina expected to be an ordinary conversation suddenly turns into an invitation to a full group party. When Al arrives, the others surprise him with a birthday celebration. He is stunned to learn that the gathering was organized for him. The situation triggers his memory of Kriana Fantasy's birthday event system. In the game, the player's birthday is determined by the date entered at the start. Low affection means spending it alone, while heroines with high affection come to celebrate. Because Al was reincarnated so abruptly, he never even knew Alba's birthday until this moment. The date is June 6th, and everyone teases Al for hiding his own birthday. Yuri's apologizes for not bringing a present because the celebration was so sudden, while Elena insists gathering together is enough. Al is bewildered that this is the first time he has learned the date himself. Mina is introduced properly to Alice and Eurus. Elena reminds Mina that House Persia is allied with House Lupica and offers support whenever she needs it, while Celia warmly welcomes her as well. The noisy gathering gives Mina a circle of people who are clearly willing to stand beside her. Al realizes he has ended up spending an entire evening surrounded by the main cast despite his constant efforts to avoid them. Still, seeing everyone together makes him decide that he can allow himself to enjoy this one fleeting event. The group brings out the cake and tells Al to make a wish before blowing out the candle. For a moment, all thoughts of villains, roots, and death flags are replaced by an ordinary birthday celebration. The party passes peacefully, leaving Al with a rare memory that feels completely separate from the game's dangerous story. It is one of the few times he simply enjoys his youth instead of calculating how to survive it. And when the party ends, Alice leaves with Eurus and the others. Al offers to walk Mina home because of what happened to her parents, and because the killer is still unknown. He decides that being overly cautious is better than leaving her vulnerable. Celia privately notices how kind Al is to everyone, and wonders whether that means he feels nothing particularly special toward Mina. When Al prepares to escort Mina, he also refuses to leave Celia's alone at home because he is her bodyguard. Celia reacts with a suspiciously pleased laugh that Al does not understand. Al asks whether Mina is really staying alone, but she explains that knights are guarding her residence. Celia tells Mina she is welcome at their house anytime and asks her to tell them if she ever needs help. Al promises the same, reinforcing that Mina does not have to face her situation by herself. They escort Mina to her residence safely. She thanks Al and Celia before going inside, though Al notices that she looked as if she wanted to say something more. He lets it go, trusting that she will speak when she is ready. As Al and Celia head home, he activates his lightning form. In its glowing state, the magic does more than increase his speed. It also lets him sense suspicious presences nearby. Celia laughs at how brightly he is shining, but Al is using the technique to check whether anyone is following them. Al suddenly detects something and releases a burst of lightning toward the source. Celia is startled as he demands to know who is there. For an instant, he believes he has caught the Watcher lurking near Mina's home. When Al checks the area, however, no one remains. He is certain he felt someone watching them, but the presence vanished before he could identify it. New known to him, the hidden observer escaped and calls Al a troublesome opponent. The Watcher is one of the same mysterious enemies from the field trip. He is impressed that a Kriana student could sense someone who was invisible, just as Yoru warned. Even so, he dismisses Al as only a little brat and continues observing from the shadows. The enemy reveals a more disturbing plan. They are waiting for the young Mrs. Magic Beast creation mana to become full. Once that happens, they believe it will finally be time for something they call God-killing. For now, the conspirators remain hidden and let the Academy students continue their ordinary lives. Their final warning is chilling. Enjoy your youth while you still can. The next major Academy event begins, the Sports Festival. Celia serves as the first-year representative and leads the oath to fight fairly with the strength and spirit cultivated at Kriana Academy. For Al, another seemingly cheerful school event immediately means another possible set of flags. Students compete as the Unicorn, Fenrir, and Holy Bird groups, and in the game victory raises affection with the Heroine connected to the Chosen group. All therefore has absolutely no intention of winning. Even though Celia is excited to participate, Elena takes the competition extremely seriously, declaring that House Persia will fight for victory. While Celia is thrilled to experience her first sports festival, all can only stare at how motivated everyone is, as Kate Sith urges the groups to show some spirit. The Fenrir group, led by Eurus and Alice, loudly declares that it will not lose. Mina represents the Holy Bird group, while Al notes that the protagonist winning would actually fit the safest canonical route. He decides letting Eurus shine sounds much better than drawing attention to himself. The Holy Bird students are equally determined, and Mina wants to make good memories with everyone. Their group specializes in high magic power, so the competition is far from one-sided. All continues planning to keep his own contribution as small as possible. Lily watches Mina and notices that she is concealing an enormous amount of magical power. Curious, Lily wonders what kind of magic Mina possesses. All finds Lily's interest unsettling, especially because Mina remembers there is even a possible route where Eurus eventually ends up with her. The first event for the first years is a foot race where magic is banned, making it a pure test of stamina. The girls line up while their friends cheer, and Kate Sith prepares to start the race. The runners launch forward. Alice proves extremely fast after years of chasing Eurus around the mountains. All, meanwhile, quietly disappears from his own responsibilities whenever possible, deciding that staying far away from death flags matters much more than earning points. The festival moves into more events, including a magic-powered giant rock race and strength competitions. Al repeatedly slips away, even using excuses like going to the restroom and never coming back. While everyone else fights for victory, he turns avoiding participation into an event of its own. The next competition is a Chambara battle, using soft magic rods that only numb anyone they hit. Kate Sith sends the students charging forward, while assuring them that the event is safe. The mock battlefield quickly becomes another chance for the strongest first years to show what they can do. Among the fighters, Eurus and Elena immediately stand out from everyone else. Their speed, pressure, and technique place them in a league of their own. All watches the two clash and sees the game heroine and protagonist naturally gravitating toward one another. Elena recognizes Eurus's raw talent, even though his technique is still less refined than hers, while Eurus struggles against the intensity of her swordsmanship. All remembers that fighting Elena evenly is one of the original story events that raises her affection toward the protagonist. That realization gives Al another uncomfortable thought. In the original game, the protagonist gets closer to a heroine and eventually fights the villain Alba to protect her. Even if Al himself is different from the original villain, recreating the hero and heroine relationship could still lead toward the same death flag. By the time the earlier events finish, the Unicorn group has fallen into last place. Celia remains optimistic because the final competition is worth double points and could still reverse the rankings. All, however, has spent the entire festival trying to avoid exactly that kind of comeback. the final first-year event is announced. A mixed-pair obstacle race that requires stamina, magic, and power, with partners switching halfway through. To Al's horror, the representatives chosen for the unicorn group are Al and Celia. Fenrir selects Eurus and Alice, while Holy Bird sends Mash and Lily. Al complains that being forced into the deciding event is a complete drag. Kate Sith refuses to let him keep skipping and orders him to participate properly. The race format is simple. The girls must clear the first series of obstacles and carry the baton to the boys, who then tackle the second half and race for the finish. With all three pairs ready, Kate Sith begins the final event. The girls sprint forward as magical obstacles activate from circles along the course. Their classmates shout encouragement from the sidelines. What looks like an ordinary school race immediately turns into a test of each heroine's specialized abilities. One obstacle produces enormous magical hands designed to bind the runners. The girls must break through or evade the restraints while maintaining enough speed to reach their partners. Lily carves open a path with magic, drawing Al's attention. Unlike most people, whose elemental affinities make them strong in one area and weak in another, Lily handles magic with extraordinary versatility. Her skill clearly reflects the training she received as the sage's disciple. Lily casually manipulates all four basic elements at once, without struggling, something that would be extremely difficult for an ordinary mage. Alice refuses to be outdone and activates her own unusual transformation magic. Alice transforms into a cat to slip through the obstacles, showing the tricky magic that makes her unique among the heroines. Al cannot help wondering why she did not use that ability when the Chimera captured her. Meanwhile, Celia prepares to clear the course in her own way. Celia invokes the goddess's protection and washes the magical obstacles away with holy light. Her saintess power opens the path almost instantly. The girls reach the handoff point, and the boys prepare to tackle the second half of the race. The first obstacle facing the boys is an enormous iron golem. Rather than a simple sprint, the final leg requires each runner to find a way past a heavily armored magical construct. Eurus receives the baton from Alice and launches forward at tremendous speed. Al recognizes the same physical enhancement Eurus used during the Chimera battle. It is the protagonist's buff spell, Overboost 1. Lily excitedly analyzes Eurus's magic through the theory of dimensional phenomenon imitation. Eurus draws kinetic energy from another dimension and assimilates it into his body, reinforcing his physical abilities. The technique is dangerous because exceeding the body's capacity could destroy the user, yet Eurus activates it with remarkable control. With Overboost 1 strengthening his body and perception, Eurus simply vaults over the iron golem and keeps running. Kate Sith praises the spectacular move while Al is reminded once again of how naturally Eurus excels as the protagonist. Celia finally reaches Al and hands him the baton. Elena shouts at him to stop spacing out, get serious, and win. Then she threatens that if he loses, she will expose his true identity to everyone, making Al panic that she might reveal he is really Alba Eretia. The threat completely destroys Al's plan to lose quietly. He explodes off the starting line in a burst of lightning, stunning the spectators. What was supposed to be a deliberately mediocre performance suddenly becomes the fastest run on the field. Al tears through the course so quickly that the obstacles barely have time to activate before he passes them. His lightning form turns the final stretch into a blur as he closes on the finish line. The crowd can do little more than watch the streak of light racing across the course. By the time the other competitors respond, Al is already almost finished. Al crosses the finish line first, giving the unicorn group the decisive victory. Elena looks satisfied that he finally showed some effort. Al, on the other hand, can only curse himself for actually winning when his entire goal was to stay unnoticed. Kate Sith announces the final results. The unicorn group has won the first-year division. The comeback Al desperately wanted to avoid is now complete, thanks largely to his own overwhelming performance. The others accept the result with good spirits, promising to do better next year and treasuring the memories they made. Even Al admits that seeing interesting magic was somewhat enjoyable. What he does not realize is that the sports festival itself has become the trigger for the next dangerous event. In the shadows, a Ragnarok member tells Yoru that the festival is over. Yoru corrects him. For their organization, the real festival is only beginning. They are finally ready to act for Ragnarok's long-cherished ambition. The mysterious group gathers behind Yoru, preparing to begin what they call God-killing. While the Academy celebrates, the enemy operation moves into its next stage. After the sports festival, Al complains about being exhausted, while Elena reminds him that he skipped half the events. She admits he still behaves like a delinquent, despite how much he has changed. Then Al notices Celia is missing. Mina asks to speak with her, and Elena says they are still in the girls' changing room. Inside the changing area, Celia approaches Mina and asks what she wanted to discuss. Mina hesitates, clearly struggling to say what is on her mind. The atmosphere is far heavier than an ordinary conversation between friends. Mina asks Celia a painful question. If she had to sacrifice one thing in order to save something else she treasured, could she do it? Celia realizes Mina is asking about more than a hypothetical choice. Celia answers thoughtfully that humans only have two hands and cannot hold on to everything. Unlike a god who can grasp all things, mortals are constantly forced to choose, select, and sometimes discard. Her words acknowledge how cruel such decisions can be, rather than pretending there is an easy answer. Celia says people agonize over what to keep, where to go, and what to take. Even when a decision demands sacrifice, what someone chooses to protect reveals what is precious to them. That struggle itself, she believes, is part of being human. Celia tells Mina that if she is suffering over a painful decision, she will respect whichever path Mina chooses. Instead of judging her, Celia offers understanding and leaves the decision in Mina's hands. Mina is moved to tears by the answer and thinks that Celia truly is a saintess. She thanks her, then quietly apologizes. Celia does not yet understand what the apology means. A hidden Ragnarok member suddenly appears behind Celia and captures her. Mina stands frozen nearby as the trap closes. When Celia asks who they are, Mina can only whisper for forgiveness. Mina breaks down, revealing that her father and mother were killed, and that she cannot bear to lose anyone else. The captor announces that the saintess is being taken to Ragnarok. Mina has chosen to cooperate with the enemy in order to protect someone she still has left. Elsewhere, Al waits with Eurus and Alice for Celia to return. He explains that Elena went to get her because she was taking so long. Then Eurus suddenly senses a massive surge of magic, and Al immediately knows something is wrong. A gigantic behemoth materializes near the academy, a legendary endgame monster that Al remembers killing him countless times in the game. Its appearance is completely impossible for an ordinary school event and instantly throws the campus into chaos. The headmaster orders an immediate evacuation as the enormous behemoth advances. Al recognizes the timing. It appeared the moment the sports festival ended. Just like the field trip attack, this cannot be a coincidence. Al identifies the behemoth as another imitation magic beast, the kind of creation no ordinary person could produce. He realizes the same hidden enemy has struck again. This time the attackers have chosen the academy itself as their battlefield. A horde of goblins appears alongside the behemoth and rushes toward the school building, where students are still trapped inside. Al's fear for Celia intensifies as the invasion spreads through the campus. The monsters are deliberately sent forward to create as much noise and destruction as possible. The attack is not simply an assault. It is a distraction designed to keep the academy's strongest defenders occupied. Inside the building, the kidnappers confirm that the chaos is unfolding exactly as Yoru planned. Using the magic beasts as cover, they prepare to take Celia away first. Mina remains with them as the operation moves toward its escape phase. Elena arrives and attacks the kidnappers, but one enemy, Dodora, blocks her with a strange rock-like arm. The others tell him to stay behind and hold Elena off while they continue with Celia. The kidnapping was planned carefully, but Elena's sudden interference forces them to improvise. One of the kidnappers sinks into the ground using earth magic and escapes with Celia's before Elena can stop him. N immediately realizes the saintess is being carried away through the floor itself. Another enemy remains behind to face Elena, revealing a long whip-like tail as a weapon. She declares herself Elena's opponent and blocks the path to the fleeing kidnappers. The enemy tells Elena that the kidnapping does not concern her and orders her to stand down. Elena refuses without hesitation. Swearing on the name of House Persia, she declares that she will never abandon a friend. Elena says abandoning a friend just to survive would be a sin worse than death. She settles into a defensive Persia-style sword stance and begins parrying the enemy's whipping tail. If she wants to chase Celia, she will first have to win this fight. Elena answers the tail attack with Persia's signature counter technique, turning bloom, redirecting the opponent's own force instead of meeting it head-on. Even the enemy is shocked that a student can use a blade technique said to rival the Royal Knights, but Elena stops her sword before delivering the finishing thrust, making it clear she has realized there is more to this opponent than meets the eye. The transformed girl stares at Elena in disbelief and asks why she stopped. Elena had a clean opening and could have run her straight through. Instead of taking the kill, Elena deliberately holds back because she has begun to recognize the person hidden beneath that monstrous appearance. Elena refuses to abandon someone she considers a friend, even when that friend is standing before her with the body of a monster. She tells the girl that the horns, tail, and altered appearance do not change what matters. Elena knows who she really is. Elena finally says the name out loud, Mina. She recognizes her friend despite the black hair, horns, tail, and beast-like transformation. Mina breaks down at being recognized, and Elena gently tells her that she is on Mina's side before asking what is truly happening and why she became involved with the kidnappers. Mina tries to warn Elena, but the warning comes a moment too late. Because Elena lowered her guard to speak with her, another enemy strikes from behind and knocks Elena down. The attack proves that Mina was never the only threat in the room, and the real kidnappers have been watching for an opening. A Ragnarok member named Sly appears and says he has come to pick Mina up. His companion crudely suggests taking Elena too. Treating the situation like a game, Mina immediately orders them to stop, showing that even while cooperating with Ragnarok, she never agreed to let them hurt Elena for their amusement. Mina angrily reminds Sly that she agreed to only one thing, helping Ragnarok kidnap the Saintess. Sly answers by reminding her why she cannot refuse them. Her little sister's life is still in their hands. He mocks Mina as Yoru's favored pet and jokes about killing Elena on the spot, forcing Mina to swallow her anger while the hostage threat keeps her trapped. Sly decides it is time to leave while Yoru remains behind to act as the decoy. Using invisibility magic, the kidnappers vanish with Mina before anyone can stop them. As she disappears, Mina can only apologize through tears, thinking about the friends she has just betrayed and the people precious to her. Al finally reaches the scene and finds Elena badly hurt after the ambush. Elena can barely stay conscious, and the first thing she does is apologize to him. Al rushes to her side in alarm, realizing that whatever happened to Celia and Mina is far more serious than he feared. While the academy is still in chaos, Yoru gleefully unleashes more imitation magic beasts and commands them to tear the campus apart. The monster invasion is not the true objective, but it keeps the defenders overwhelmed while Ragnarok carries out the Saintess kidnapping behind the scenes. The headmaster, Professor Gunsho, proves why he is called the Academy's strongest magic swordsman. With a single devastating strike, he slices off the behemoth's head and destroys the giant threat. Then he comes face to face with Yoru and recognizes her immediately as a former student he has not seen in years. Gunsho demands to know why Yoru is attacking her own alma mater. He remembers her as a brilliant student who graduated at the top of her class. Yoru answers that this is a festival celebrating the end of the three great powers that rule the world, making it clear the Academy is only one target in a much larger plan. Gunsho realizes Ragnarok may not be targeting only the Academy. The church and even the royal palace could be part of Yoru's plan as well. Yoru refuses to explain further, simply bidding farewell to the professor she once respected and calling him her beloved teacher before escaping. As Yoru retreats, Gunsho remembers the gifted girl she used to be, a valedictorian whose talent almost seemed too good to be true. In the past, she had sincerely thanked him and promised to use her magic to bring happiness to others. Seeing what she has become now leaves him wondering how that hopeful student turned into the leader of Ragnarok. Al brings Elena to the infirmary and immediately asks where Celia and Mina are. Still injured, Elena forces herself to explain that Celia was kidnapped. The revelation shocks Al. He had feared something was wrong, but hearing that the Saintess has actually been taken confirms that the enemy's attack was planned around her. Elena describes the massive man in a black robe whose skin was like rock. He pulled Celia underground and escaped with her, while another accomplice stopped Elena from pursuing them. She apologizes for failing to protect Celia, but Al is focused on finding whoever did this rather than blaming her. Then Elena reveals the detail that changes everything. The second person involved was Mina. She says Mina no longer looked entirely human and had transformed into something resembling a magic beast. Elena suspects Mina may be what the church calls a heretic, leaving Al stunned that one of their own friends could be connected to Ragnarok. Al recalls the church's definition of heretics, people condemned as blasphemers, supposedly born from the forbidden union of humans and beasts. Elena wonders if that means Mina is some kind of half-beast. Al refuses to accept that the transformed girl is somehow a different person. Whatever her body looked like to him, she is still the Mina they know. Al insists that Mina's appearance does not erase their friendship. If she helped kidnap Celia, then there has to be a reason behind it, Elena agrees. Rather than instantly treating Mina as an enemy, the two decide that they need to understand what forced her into this situation. Al connects the clues. Heretics appear to be outcasts gathered under some organization, and the giant who carried Celia away may have been one of them too. The situation reminds him of an original game event, the Saintess kidnapping incident, where a cult abducts Celia and the protagonist rescues her, deepening their bond. There is one huge difference from the game. The original kidnapping only happened because the villain Alba cooperated with the cult, yet Al has done absolutely nothing of the sort. Even stranger, Mina was merely a background character in the original story. Al wonders whether fate has pulled her into the role that his changed actions left vacant. Al urgently asks Elena whether she knows where Celia was taken, but Elena admits she has no clue. She was caught off guard and lost consciousness before she could track the kidnappers. Just then, a hidden voice interrupts them and jokes that peeping is a terrible hobby, revealing that someone else has been listening to the entire conversation. Lily drops her invisibility spell and admits she heard everything because she missed the right moment to reveal herself. Elena recognizes her as a student from the Phoenix. All is stunned by the advanced invisibility magic, while Lily casually introduces herself and explains that she watched Elena's battle from hiding. Elena angrily asks why Lily did not intervene while Celia was being kidnapped. Lily explains that she did not yet know which side was right and refused to act blindly. Now that she understands the situation, however, she offers an important clue. Something useful should still be left behind in the girls' locker room. Al immediately asks Lily to come with him and investigate the clue. Elena tries to follow as well, but Al orders her to stay in the infirmary because she is injured. He asks Elena to explain the attack to a teacher instead, while he and Lily take responsibility for pursuing Celia's kidnappers. Before Al leaves, Elena makes one more desperate request. Save Mina too. She cannot forget that Mina was crying, and she blames herself for not being strong enough to protect either of them. Her words make it clear that she does not see Mina as a traitor who deserves punishment, but as another friend who needs rescuing. Al reassures Elena with a promise. He will save both Celia and Mina. That finally allows Elena to relax, and she thanks him for taking her feelings seriously. With Elena left to recover, Al and Lily can now focus entirely on following the kidnapper's trail. Lily explains that when the imitation magic beasts appeared, she searched for the source of their magical power. While hidden, she saw Mina transform and watched Celia being kidnapped. Rather than charging in without understanding the situation, Lily observed until Al arrived, gathering enough information to determine what had actually happened. The underground earth magic used by the giant requires an enormous amount of power, which means traces of his magical signature should remain behind. Lily can still sense a faint fragment of that magic. If she can follow it, the residue should lead them directly toward the kidnapper. Something an ordinary student would never be able to detect. Lily confidently says she can track the trail. As the sage's disciple and one of the heroines Al remembers from the game, her magical perception is on another level. Al asks her to lend him that strength so they can find the friends he refuses to abandon. Al knows that simply allowing Celia to disappear would probably move him farther away from his death flag. Logically, doing nothing would be safer for him. But after everything that has happened, he refuses to choose survival over his friends. He decides to follow his own heart, and Lily agrees that saving them is the right thing to do. Far from the academy, Eurus lands after sprinting across the rough terrain at extreme speed. Even with his enhanced body, the chase has pushed him hard enough to leave him breathing heavily. He is pursuing another lead connected to the attack, unaware that Alice is about to catch up with him. Alice finally catches Eurus after rushing out of the academy in bird form. She complains that he suddenly took off and forced her to use wings just to keep up. Eurus apologizes and explains that he found the people he was looking for, pointing toward the direction the suspected attackers fled. Eurus explains why he chased them. During the behemoth battle, he noticed someone riding on the monster, and he also saw the headmaster speaking to that person. When the imitation beasts vanished, the suspicious figure leapt from the behemoth and flew away. Eurus followed, believing that person was connected to the academy attack. Even with Overboost 1, Eurus could not keep up. The enemy moved faster than the swiftest horse and eventually shook him off completely. That convinces Eurus that attack the academy is no ordinary opponent, so he and Alice must decide whether to keep searching or return for help. Alice examines the fresh tracks left on the ground and takes over the pursuit. Using a Nemacha change, she transforms into a dog so she can follow the enemy's scent. Eurus trusts her sharper senses, and the pair resume the chase with Alice leading them directly toward the hidden location. Meanwhile, Al and Lily have followed the magical residue far beyond the academy. Al praises Lily's tracking as the trail continues through the wilderness. Lily confirms that she can still feel the kidnappers' magic in the same direction, meaning they are closing in instead of wandering blindly. Al tells Lily to hold on tight and carries her as he accelerates across the terrain with his own high-speed magic. The distant ruins finally come into view beneath the moonlight, and Al silently urges Celia to wait just a little longer. He is coming for her. Inside Ragnarok's hideout, the cult celebrates that they have captured the Saintess. Their followers hail Yoru and proclaim that the long-awaited god-killing ceremony can finally begin. Elsewhere in the fortress, the captive Celia weakly calls out for Alba, while Al's promise to save her drives him closer to the enemy base. Celia awakens on the cold floor of a prison cell, confused and exhausted. As her memories return, she realizes she was abducted by Mina and the others. The Saintess is now alone inside Ragnarok's hideout, with no idea what the organization intends to do with her. A woman approaches Celia's cell and announces that the Saintess is awake. She introduces herself as Yoru, the leader of Ragnarok, the organization responsible for the kidnapping. For Celia, this is the first time she sees the mastermind behind the attack face to face. Celia demands to know why she was taken and what Ragnarok wants from her. Yoru cheerfully calls the coming event a festival and says Celia is their guest of honor. The casual tone only makes the threat more disturbing because Yoru is clearly enjoying Celia's confusion. Yoru finally states Ragnarok's objective: God-killing. Their target is the goddess of fate worshipped by the Kriana Church. Since they cannot simply drag a deity into the room and kill her, they intend to strike at the goddess through the person who represents her most strongly in the mortal world. The Saintess. Yoru unleashes her hatred of the goddess, accusing her of watching the world from afar while doing nothing for people starving, dying of disease, or being crushed by the greed of others. To Yoru, a deity who allows that suffering while accepting worship is not benevolent at all, but cruel and discriminatory. Celia immediately defends the goddess, saying she is a loving mother who grants destiny to the lost and watches over them. Yoru laughs at the answer. She points out that Celia, the only woman blessed with holy power, is also the person who benefits most directly from the goddess's favor, making her faith seem painfully blind from Yoru's perspective. Yoru attacks Celia through the bars and makes her intention brutally clear. Since she cannot reach the goddess herself, she will kill the goddess's chosen proxy instead. Celia is no longer merely a hostage. Ragnarok has chosen her as the symbolic target of its war against the church and the deity it worships. Celia collapses in pain as Yoru names the ritual for what it is: God-killing. The Saintess's murder is meant to be more than an execution. It is Ragnarok's declaration that destroying the goddess's chosen vessel is equivalent to striking the goddess herself. Yoru says Celia's execution will be a public spectacle, fitting for the festival Ragnarok has prepared. Until then, she tells Celia to curse the goddess who handed her such a fate. Celia bitterly thinks about how the church would probably expect her to keep praying even now. but she refuses to simply accept the destiny forced upon her. Celia remembers the teachings she received as a child. Because she was blessed with holy power, the adults around her told her that harsh trials were part of the saintess's fate. She was taught not to break under that burden, but to use her power for the world and its people no matter how much suffering came with it. For years, Celia believed the saintess was destined to endure hardship forever. Then she remembers the person who gave her a completely different answer. All told her that if the fate given to her ever made her cry and she had nowhere to run, she could run to him. He would become her refuge. Remembering how Al stayed beside her changes the meaning of fate in Celia's heart. For the first time, someone taught her that she was allowed to fight against a destiny she hated. Instead of obediently accepting suffering because the church calls it sacred, Celia realizes she can choose what she wants for herself. Celia rises and declares that she absolutely refuses to be killed. She rejects any destiny that demands she die for someone else's purpose. Yoru is unimpressed and tells her that resistance will not change the result. As far as Ragnarok is concerned, Celia's life has already been offered to the goddess as part of their revenge. Yoru reveals another reason she wants Celia dead. The pain it will cause the church and the powerful people who treat the saintess as precious. To her, watching the world's smug rulers lose their treasured symbol would be the perfect way to make them taste the suffering they have inflicted on outcasts. Left alone after Yoru departs, Celia crumples to the ground and cries out Alba's name. Her brave refusal does not erase the fear of being trapped in an enemy stronghold. Yet far outside the fortress, Al is already approaching, determined to reach her before Ragnarok's ceremony can begin. Al and Lily arrive near the massive hideout, but Al refuses to storm the front entrance. He remembers from the game that approaching that way is a guaranteed disaster, filled with traps and ambushes. The structure matches the location he remembers, confirming that they have found Ragnarok's base, and that his old game knowledge may still give them a way inside. Al remembers repeatedly getting game overs in this area, and eventually learning the map through painful trial and error. Because of that, he knows there should be a hidden back entrance on the opposite side of the building. He tells Lily the rescue is normally a clearable event called Rescue the Saintess. But one unsettling difference keeps bothering him. That difference is Mina. In the original game, she was never part of this event, yet Elena specifically begged Al to save her too. Al recognizes Mina as the irregular factor that could change everything. He thanks Lily for getting him this far, and initially tells her he will handle the rest alone. Lily refuses to be left behind. She reminds Al that he has already caught her interest, and openly says she wants to see more of his unusual magic. Her curiosity is genuine, but it also means Al has gained a powerful partner for the infiltration, whether he planned on it or not. Al realizes Lily's insistence follows the exact kind of pattern that would raise her affection rating in an Otome game, which is the last thing he wants. Still, rescuing Celia and the others matters more. He tells Lily to hold on and carries her as he accelerates toward the hideout, choosing speed over worrying about another possible romance flag. At another side of the fortress, Eurus and Alice reach the hideout by following the scent trail. Alice, still using her animal form, confirms that the smell leads directly toward the entrance. They have independently found the same Ragnarok base, giving Celia two rescue teams approaching from different directions. Alice suggests returning to the academy first, because they do not know how many enemies are inside. Before Eurus can decide, she hears footsteps and tells him to hide. Two careless guards wander outside, convinced nobody would come this far. Their conversation gives Eurus and Alice the perfect chance to learn what Ragnarok is planning. The guards excitedly talk about midnight, the time Ragnarok has been waiting for. They say the festival will finally make the bigoted people who oppress them regret everything. Then Eurus hears the words that make his blood run cold. God Killing will use the kidnapped saintess as a blood sacrifice. Unable to remain hidden after hearing that, Eurus steps out and confronts the guards. He demands to know whether they truly kidnapped the saintess, shocking them that a Kriana Academy student reached the hideout. The guards dismiss him as a cocky noble brat, but Eurus's anger makes it obvious he has no intention of backing down. The guards refuse to answer properly and threaten Eurus instead, bragging that they will take their time torturing him to death. That threat only hardens Eurus's resolve. With his weapon drawn, he prepares to force the truth out of them rather than waste another second arguing. Eurus explodes into action and wipes out the guards before they can make good on their threats. His attack is so fast and violent that the men are sent crashing away in an instant. Alice can only stare at the aftermath and quietly conclude that Eurus is seriously angry about what happened to Celia. Alice immediately teases Eurus about his feelings, asking what it was like to finally meet the saintess he admired. Embarrassed, Eurus admits that talking to Celia felt warm and soothing, and that she was even more wonderful than he imagined. Alice naturally translates that confession into one conclusion. Celia is very special to him. Their joking stops when Alice looks closely at the fallen guards. Their faces and bodies are clearly not normal human forms, yet the men were perfectly capable of talking and thinking. Eurus realizes these are the beings the church has always addressed as heretics, and the reality in front of him is far more human than the sermons made them sound. Eurus recalls the church's teaching that heretics are blasphemers who defy divine providence and must be punished. Their appearance fits that description perfectly, and kidnapping the saintess is considered the ultimate insult to the goddess. Even so, he puts doctrine aside for now and vows to rescue Celia first. Alice enthusiastically joins him. Deeper inside the fortress, Yoru hears that the entrance has become unusually noisy and realizes uninvited guests have arrived. Without showing any concern, she orders her followers to politely remove the intruders. Mina stands nearby, clearly uneasy as the rescue attempt begins closing in on Ragnarok. Al and Lily reach the back of the hideout, confirming that the secret entrance from Al's game memories really exists. With the dangerous front route avoided, the two prepare to slip inside through the hidden passage and search for Celia and Mina. Al carries Lily through the dark passage, while using his magic directly on his own body to move at tremendous speed without a chant. Lily realizes exactly what he is doing. She warns him that this is not harmless enhancement. The phenomenon itself consumes his body, making every use of the technique dangerously costly. Lily continues warning that if Al pushes the phenomenon too far, it could consume his body completely. Before the conversation can continue, an attack erupts from the ground. Al reacts instantly, grabbing Lily and throwing them both clear of the blast before the hidden enemy can crush them. After landing safely, Al realizes they have company. The attacker is using a familiar-looking form of light magic, and the enemy recognizes Al as the brat, who is always trailing after the saintess. The ambush confirms that Ragnarok expected intruders even at the back entrance. The rock-skinned enemy mocks Al for coming to retrieve his precious saintess. Al demands to know where Celia is, but the man refuses to answer and laughs at him. He reveals that the obvious front entrance was bait meant for Al's companions, meaning Ragnarok has prepared separate defenders for every approach. The heretic declares that every intruder will be slaughtered. As his arm transforms into the limb of a magic beast, Al finally understands what Elena meant when she described the kidnappers. This enemy is a heretic, but Al has no time to debate labels. The man is already attacking with lethal intent. At the front entrance, Eurus is confronted by a larger group of Ragnarok fighters. They rush him from all sides, shouting for the intruder to be killed. Eurus answers with a rapid sword assault, cutting through the attackers before they can surround him and clearing the path deeper into the hideout. After the attackers fall, Alice studies their altered faces and bodies. She tells Eurus that these people are definitely the same kind of beings the church calls heretics. Eurus agrees, but there is no time to dwell on it. He and Alice need to hurry and find Celia before Ragnarok can begin its ceremony. At the front route, Eurus and Alice are suddenly attacked from beneath. A gigantic stone arm bursts out of the ground and nearly catches them by surprise. Alice shouts a warning as the floor itself becomes a weapon, revealing another heretic waiting to stop the rescue team. The attacker assumes Eurus must also be a heretic because he survived the ambush and calls him one of their kind. Eurus snaps back that he is not. The misunderstanding does nothing to stop the fight, and the enemy immediately prepares another heavy strike. Eurus repeats that he is not a heretic and blasts the attacker away. Rather than letting Alice stay tied down in the battle, he tells her to use her searching magic to find Celia. Alice agrees, trusting Eurus to hold the enemy back while she continues the rescue mission. Alice transforms again with anima change and races away to search for Celia. She reminds Eurus that she is his partner, not some helpless girl who needs to be protected. Left with the heretic, Eurus demands an explanation. If Ragnarok claims to be defending heretics, why did its members attack the academy and kidnap the saintess? The heretic erupts in anger, declaring that the Kriana Church has always treated people like him as monsters. He says they are discriminated against, bullied, and cast aside simply for existing. From his perspective, Ragnarok is not the villain at all. He believes they are destroying the true evil, and proudly calls themselves the real heroes of justice. Eurus challenges that claim, but the heretic points to his monstrous arm and asks how anyone could call the situation fair. People judge them by their appearance and justify that hatred in the name of God. He insists that heretics were originally ordinary humans, their bodies changed by something closer to a curse or disease than a chosen sin. The heretic explains that the transformation can begin at birth, during childhood, or even after someone grows up. For some, it is stone-like skin. For others, entirely different mutations. Everyone gathered in Ragnarok lives with those changes eating away at their bodies, and some eventually lose their minds completely and become true monsters. Instead of helping them, the church labels heretics enemies of the world and invents stories about forbidden unions between humans and beasts. The result is persecution rather than treatment or understanding. That hatred is exactly why Ragnarok intends to kill the church's greatest treasure and symbol of faith, the saintess. The heretic calls Celia's death a revolution. If the church's precious saintess is slaughtered because of the hatred it created, he hopes the world will finally repent for how heretics were treated. Eurus cannot simply dismiss the suffering behind those words, but he also refuses to accept murder as justice. Whatever the church has done, sacrificing Celia is not an answer he can tolerate. Al draws a firm line between understanding their pain and accepting their actions. Celia and Mina are his friends, and this world is now his reality. Not a game where suffering can be dismissed as predetermined background lore. He came for one reason only, to take both of his friends back. The heretic laughs at Al for calling Mina a friend and reveals a shocking truth. Mina was responsible for the magic beasts that attacked during the field trip, and again after the school festival. According to him, those disasters were not separate accidents at all. They were created through Mina's own power. The enemy explains that Mina possesses a rare ability called magic beast creation, allowing her to produce monsters directly from her own magical power. Among Ragnarok, that makes her exceptionally valuable. He cruelly calls her the Princess of Monsters and mocks Al for defending someone who helped unleash those creatures in the first place. Al remembers Mina crying and asking for help, both openly and in the moments she tried to hide her pain. The memories make one thing obvious to him. Mina is too kind to have joined Ragnarok willingly. If she caused those attacks, then someone must have forced her into it. The heretic confirms Al's suspicion. Mina played along with the saintess and the academy students because she had no choice. Ragnarok threatened the rest of her family, especially her precious little sister, so Mina obeyed in order to keep them alive. The story flashes back to the moment Ragnarok entered Mina's home. Sly stood over her injured parents and calmly introduced himself to the terrified girl, calling her a little heretic lady. He invited Mina to join their organization while making it obvious that the offer was anything but voluntary. Sly reveals that Ragnarok has already investigated Mina thoroughly. The moment they roughed up her mother, her terrified father confessed everything about Mina's hidden nature. Sly laughs at the family's suffering and even says they plan to kill both parents anyway, making it brutally clear that Mina has no real bargaining power. Ragnarok's real leverage is Mina's little sister. Sly tells Mina that even if she refuses to join, or even if she chooses death, their men will butcher the child somewhere Mina can never reach. With her sister's life in their hands, Mina is trapped by a threat she has no power to ignore. Mina breaks down in tears as the memory of her family crushes her resistance. Faced with the choice between obeying Ragnarok and watching her little sister die, she finally gives in. She quietly agrees to join them, showing that her so-called betrayal began as an act of desperation to protect her family. Back in the present, the heretic mocks Al for still calling Mina a friend. To him, every smile Mina shared with the academy was just an act, and she is still the one who helped kidnap Celia to save herself and her family. He expects Al to hate her as a traitor, but Al refuses to accept that cruelly simplified version of what happened. The enemy keeps provoking Al, asking whether he actually fell for a monster like Mina. He laughs and offers to personally deliver Al's corpse to her feet. That is enough. The conversation is over, and the heretic launches himself forward to kill Al. The heretic attacks with overwhelming physical force, but Al meets the charge head-on. In a single explosive counter, Al tears through the assault and sends the attacker flying. The enemy's confidence disappears instantly, as Al finally stops wasting time on his threats. The defeated heretic is blasted away across the battlefield, leaving Al standing with cold fury. Whether this world began as a game or has become an entirely different reality, no longer matters to him. People who torment Mina, threaten her family, and murder in the name of justice have crossed his line. To Al, scum like that simply deserve to die.